comes Johnson once more in, bowls to Cook. Cook played forward to Hill, but he's out! He's LBW! He went to play that away to leg, and Australia have struck. Hilfenhaus it is, into Bopara. And Bopara is on path, there's a appeal for LBW.
Oh my goodness!
He's LBW, and England have now lost their second wicket, 17 for 2. Bopara has gone, and this really is a disaster for England.
Good morning from Cardiff, and welcome to everyone through TMS and also ABC Local Radio on Grandstand Down Under. And particularly for those listening in Australia, you'll be pleased to hear that it's fine, mainly, and sunny. I can see blue sky. We have had some rain here this morning, quite a heavy shower an hour or so ago, and some of the covers are still lingering here, a bit like sails in the sunset. They're being laid out to dry, and they've been now taken off the ground. The hovercraft, as it were, the main cover is still sitting on the middle of the square, but I could get sunburned if I stayed out here for much longer. I'm out with Vic Marks looking around this ground, which is supposed to be a sellout again today. I think it's £25, just over $50 Australian for a ticket on this last day. A game that's been very well attended and very well put on by the locals here. We've had warm, welcoming hospitality all the time, the friendliest security people, and today we've got a game on what looks to be something of a knife edge, with England having to battle hard to save it. Victor, good morning to you.
Morning, Jim.
What do you make of what's likely to happen today?
Well, sadly, they spent millions of pounds here getting a very, very good drainage system to welcome you Australians, and the Aussies will be happy with that because it's soaked up all the rain. We had quite a lot of rain yesterday, especially. And you're right, it's on a knife edge. You would reckon that Australia, given fair weather, and it looks like it's going to be fair, with just the odd chance of a share, will be favourites to win. And you don't often win when the opposition gets 435, but that's the way the land lies at the moment. Those 2 wickets yesterday were absolutely crucial. Just psychologically they were crucial. It really gives the Aussies a boost. England know they're really up against it, the pressure's mounting on them. Go one down and then go to Lords. It doesn't sound good because the Aussies love playing there. So, you know, it's going to be a tense, taut day, and England will do very well to get out of this.
We've only had 18 wickets fall in 4 days, mind you, and the pitch didn't appear to change in character yesterday, so you would think that if 1 or 2 batsmen get in, they'll take some shifting on this very benign surface.
Well, that's the rational view, which of course we expect from you, Jim. But there is also that pressure. This is the Ashes. There's been the big build-up. For a day or two, England thought they were right in the game, possibly bossing the game. They find themselves having to scrap. So there will be some movement out there. Slow movement, slow turn for Hauritz. But there is that element of pressure, 5th day pressure, with England. Well, I think they have to be quite positive. I know we keep carping on about they're playing too many shots, but there's 98 overs possible today, and they can actually win themselves some time, if not being gung-ho, but they've got to take the opportunities to score when they come along, most definitely, because that could actually win them some time later on in the day. But 2 people have got to play really significant innings, I would have thought, for England to get out of this hole.
Well, maybe all the Christmases are going to come at once, just as that Christmas beetle was on your collar over there. He turned up at just the right time, and the talisman of this English team in the last series was Andrew Flintoff. What can he do today? Well, he's been speaking with Alison Mitchell earlier this morning.
Well, Andrew, a lot of batting to be done today. Let's talk about the pitch first of all, and weather permitting, all this is of course, but what's it going to be like to bat on, how difficult or otherwise, being the 5th day?
Yeah, we know we've got to bat well. We can't get carried away with the weather or worry about that. Just got to concentrate on our job, which is scoring runs today. The pitch is still good. We saw that yesterday in the way in which the Australians played. A little bit of spin, but it's still pretty slow. If we play well, we'll come out at the end of it with a draw.
Is Nathan Hauritz going to be much of a threat then on that wicket?
We'll wait and see. He bowled all right first innings, a little bit of spin for him. but we'll see when he comes on. You know, we've got lads who can play spin, so you know, we should be all right.
Paul Collingwood saying last night that now's the time for somebody to stand up, take responsibility. Is that also about sort of, as a group, valuing your wickets as much as those Australian batsmen did?
Yeah, of course it is. I think the first innings most of us got starts but didn't carry on to score a big 100 or score some big runs. I think forward Aussie's got hundreds, so it's going to take a couple of lads to get a big score and to put us to safety. You know, standing up or whatever you want to call it, and just got to play well.
In terms of the weather, there'll be lots of England fans looking to the sky and hoping for rain, but in terms of sort of getting momentum back and lifting the mood going into Lords, it'd actually be better for you guys to be able to get out there and earn yourselves a draw with the bat. Yeah,
well, just still a few days away. We've just got to concentrate on today. Like I said before, we can't be looking at the skies every 2 minutes praying for rain. We know the job in hand. We've got to bat well, and we've got to bat for 90 odd overs or somewhere nearabouts, and we're more than capable of doing that. And what about that batting approach? I mean, it's no good just sort of standing there and blocking. Where does the balance come between occupying the crease, knowing you need the jaw, but also sort of playing some strokes? Yeah, runs still play a part. We need to score runs. You get past the Australians. You know, to make the job a little bit easier. We saw in Adelaide in the last Test match, well, last series against Australia, that if you go nowhere, it puts a lot of pressure on you. And when they came to bat, it wasn't that hard for them to score the runs. So we've got to keep our positive attitude, but value the wicket, like you rightly said. So it'd be a sort of a low-risk approach? I don't know. I can't promise that. The lads will just have to play the way in which they know they can do. You know, people practice, are very talented, and just get on with it. All right, Andrew, best of luck. Thanks a lot. Pleasure. Cheers, Tat.
Well, England will be hoping that it's a while before Andrew Flintoff has to bat, because the conditions here, as I mentioned a few moments ago, are certainly fine, and you would think that Pietersen or Strauss or Collingwood, someone could play an innings of a lengthy duration here. We're getting run over by all sorts of people here. They removed the covers. They've got super soppers going. You mentioned the drainage here, Victor, underfoot. I mean, you can sense a little bit of moisture around, but there's certainly no evidence of walking through puddles.
No, not at all. I mean, there is a bit of dampness, and I suppose that might be a slight concern for the Aussies. You know how precious fielding sides are about keeping the ball dry, looking for that reverse swing later on. Well, the ball could still get a little bit damp this morning. They've got every sort of super stopper here zipping around, but we did have quite a sharp shower, so if you rub your hand over the outfield, you know, your hand's damp. So if England can get it to the boundary a few times, it won't do the ball a lot of good. But on the other hand, the Aussies want to get out here as quick as possible. They hadn't taken the covers off for ages, actually. But of course, that's not a big process. I presume we're going to start on time, but they're only just going to get it ready in time, aren't they?
Just like it, you know, waiting for the last minute in case another shower comes in. But I think the forecast in the main is okay today. I don't think we've got a huge front moving in from the southwest as we had yesterday.
No, and it'd be a mistake. I wonder yesterday, actually, whether part of England were pretty limp yesterday, weren't they? And I just wonder, you get into a frame of mind. We spend a lot of time, didn't we, looking at those radar things on the internet and seeing the weather coming, and it didn't come, and it didn't come. England would have done the same, and I reckon they might have been in the frame of mind of, well, there's not much we can do, but don't worry, the weather's coming, and that'll take a lot of time out of the game. In fact, it didn't take as much time as they thought. They were poor in the field. They allowed Australia to go at such a rate that Ponting, very sharp, ready to really tread on England when they were down, got that declaration in just in time to give his bowlers, whatever it was, 7 overs, that's all, against England, and pick up those 2 wickets, which were so fundamental to the pressure England's under now. So, I mean, Ponting didn't miss a trick yesterday. He was helped by the way Haddin smashed the ball with abandon it after lunch. I mean, he doesn't half hit it crisply, doesn't he?
He played beautifully. Let's, in fact, take the chance on your cue to hear from him. Alison Mitchell caught up with one of the 4 century makers in the innings, 2 yesterday, the wicket-keeper, Brad Haddin.
Well, Brad, congratulations on the century yesterday. The day couldn't have gone any better for Australia, particularly with those 2 wickets at the end.
Yeah, I think things went to plan for us yesterday. We've spoken about we wanted to bat deep and give ourselves a chance to have a bit of a hit late in the day. It was great to get those wickets to finish the day off. It was obviously disappointing we couldn't get some more cricket out there. We felt like we're on a bit of a roll, and momentum was just sort of really starting to come our way. But today's a new day, and we've got to get out and start that all over again.
What is this pitch playing like? Going into the 5th day now, it's not doing what England thought it would do when they named 2 spinners in their side.
No, I think the wicket's still turning. I've said before, there's a lot of pressure on those two spinners going into the game. They were talking a lot about how they're going to go into spin us out. So the wicket did offer a bit there for the slower bowlers. But as I said, there's a lot of pressure on those guys to bowl us out.
Do you think that was what sort of affected the bowlers, that the pressure got a bit too much? They weren't able to get the breakthroughs and really put you guys under pressure?
I think they just came across a couple of batters that were pretty hungry and in some pretty good form. It was a good wicket. We knew that from day one. And it was just it was the start of an Ashes series. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and the boys were up to play yesterday.
And that getting to 3 figures really meant a lot to you, clearly.
Yeah, it did. It's always pretty special. And after the platform that Simon, Ricky, and Michael sort of set us on the early days, just allowed Marcus and I to play with that little bit extra freedom later in the day. So it was it's going to plan so far. We just hope this weather holds off and we can play some good cricket today. So
weather permitting, 8 wickets away from victory. How big a role will Nathan Hauritz play today?
Mate, he'll play a massive role. You've seen in the first innings he was on song and bowled very well. So there's a lot of options in. It's a last day wicket. There's always a few tricks on a day 5 wicket, no matter how good it is to bat on. So we'll just keep putting the ball in the right areas and asking a lot of questions.
So confidence?
We'll see how we go.
See what the weather does. Brad, thanks very much.
Well, the weather's looking okay so far. Alison Mitchell there with Brad Haddin, who I'm sure, like the rest of the Aussies, will be as hungry as the old dog on the tucker box from his hometown of Gundagai in New South Wales. There'll be a lot of people listening in the country. Brad's parents are sitting in the crowd. They would have been absolutely delighted to be at the ground. Imagine it as a parent, to be at a big sporting event like this and to see your son make 100. But the pressure might be on him behind the stumps today, Victor, because Nathan Hauritz potentially is going to have a role to play.
Oh, yeah, unless the fast bowlers really make a big inroads, you'd expect Hauritz to bowl a lot of overs. But somehow there was so much talk about Hauritz, writing about Hauritz, isolating him. Here's the weak spot in the Aussie team. But all that pressure has dissipated over the last 3 or 4 days, it seems to me. He didn't bowl that well in the first innings, but he got the Pietersen wicket. He then picked up a couple of tail-enders. He got 3 wickets. England spinners have bowled 75, 76 overs. I'm going to have to try and stop Jim joining in now as Jerusalem gets up, but I'll do my best to get
I'm waiting for the land down under.
England spinners bowled 76 overs or for 1 wicket. Suddenly the focus is no longer on Hauritz, so he's going to be able to bowl with a lot more freedom, a lot more pressure. He's got runs on the board, and if he could get 3 or 4 wickets today, 3 wickets would do, I reckon. Australia will probably win. And suddenly he's a bit of a hero and a bit of a match winner, and not the man that we all say, well, what the devil are the Aussies going to do with Hauritz? He's the only choice they've got, and he's no good. That'll go out the window. I mean, it's amazing how things can change so quickly, isn't it, in any sport? But in a test series like this, suddenly England are scrabbling to try and stay level in the series. And the Aussies, their trump card, Nathan Hauritz.
Well, with the sound of Jerusalem in the background, perhaps the sound of triumph for England getting a draw, hopefully not being sung at a wake after England have lost the game.
What I'm looking for, I mean, although obviously I retain my objectivity absolutely as best I can, apart from when I'm talking to you, Jim, is a repeat of Old Trafford last year where I saw Aussies hugging and kissing that they got a draw at Old Trafford. Well, if England could do something like that, I might give you a little hug later on.
We look forward to seeing that on the radio. Aggers, over to you as the players come out. Ricky Ponting, in the face of Jerusalem, echoing all the way around the ground, is bringing his boys onto the field. Aggers.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, everybody. Yes, here come the Australians running out directly behind the umpires as if they mean business, which they most certainly do today. They would be absolutely delighted to go one up here in Cardiff, a venue, after all, that looked possibly as if they'd been ambushed when it was selected, surprisingly, to stage this test match. I think people thought that it was England's potentially best opportunity to win, but out they come, the batsmen, with a huge job to do to avoid defeat, led by the captain, Andrew Strauss, who runs out first. first. Kevin Pietersen behind him. They're walking past that Australian huddle. They've gathered there. Quite a long conversation taking place in there, and trying to ignore them as best they can. England's opening batsman walked past. Our old friend there, the singing tenor, comes to his enormous climax. I think he's singing all round the series. I don't know what happens if he gets a sore throat one day, but he'll have to get a stand in. But anyway, there we go. He's done his bit for the morning, and he'll get a good hand as well, I'm sure. There we are. So he waves to the crowd. A good crowd too, not full, but a healthy number in here today. I'm sure many will come. And weather-wise, well, slightly fingers crossed. We've been trawling through the various weather forecasting sites and so on. We may get a shower or two. We've had some rain this morning, but it's going to blow through. There's a chance possibly of some heavier showers late this afternoon, or whatever that means. 20 for 2, the situation in England, then 219 behind, with Strauss and Pietersen at the crease, and all eyes not merely on Australia's seam bowlers, of course, the two that did the damage, Johnson and Hilfenhaus last night, removing Cook and Bopara, but particularly Nathan Hauritz, I think, because he came into this game with no one rating him particularly highly. England playing their two spinners, who both, frankly, had pretty miserable days yesterday, not simply either just taking one wicket between them in, 73 overs or whatever it was that they bowled, but only 12 maidens in that time as well. They created no pressure. And Nathan Hauritz, I'm sure, will try and show that actually he's rather better than people gave him credit for. Peter Siddle's going to bowl the first over. Ian Chappell's alongside me, looking thoughtful after a very enjoyable evening last night. Ian, you're on good, rumbustious form, I thought.
Good morning, Agus, and hello to all our listeners. Yeah, interesting day. It's amazing that what we were looking at 1 hour ago was absolutely bucketing down, but now it's quite pleasant. I think that England would like to have a full... I doubt that the batsmen want to be on and off with showers. I think that's probably about the worst scenario for England. I think if they would feel if it's going to rain, let it bucket down and finish the whole thing.
That's a good point. Here's the first ball. Siddle runs in, bowls to Strauss, a Yorker, which just moves away from him. A shade in the air. Strauss brings that back down quickly. It's played up to mid-off. So, a good first ball there from Siddle, right up on target, making Strauss jam his bat down. Michael Clarke's loosening up there at first slip. There's 3 in all, and Ponting a bit second, presumably. Hughes at third. There's a gully, point, mid-off, mid-on, deep square leg, and a long leg. 20 for 2 is the score, of course. And in goes Siddle, right arm, strongly built. He bowls. There's the first run of the day. They're going for it, and they'll get there as well. The cover fielder not quite able to pick the ball up. Strauss scores his first run of the day, a busy looking push into the offside, setting off immediately, and that brings Pietersen down on strike. The man, of course, that Australia really would like to dislodge early. Always conversation about Pietersen, the way he bats, the way he plays. I think from England's perspective, people are hoping that he gets his head down, atones rather for that first innings shot when he'd got in. But then, of course, he's the most prolific batsman. 53 he averages in the first innings of Test cricket. Not quite so many in the second, but you'd expect that. 46 in the second innings. Siddle's on his way, bowls, and Pietersen plays onto the back foot, just playing that away quietly into the offside. Picked up point, 21 for 2. And, of course, runs are important. If you work it out, 219 runs, well, that... if England score at the normal rate these days, that takes you to round about tea time, maybe just after, at which point, of course, Australia would therefore have to be batting again and scoring whatever runs England make after that. So runs are always an element in this too.
Yeah, I think they'd want to knock the target off, round about tea time.
Siddle bowls a low full toss, which surprises Pietersen. It's a no ball as well. But that was around about, below knee-high, but a little higher, I think, than Pietersen expected. Siddle looked rather accusingly at the front crease line there. Umpire Doctrove having penalised him for overstepping. 22 for 2. Ponting chewing, always rather a frenzied chewer of his gum. There at second slip, wringing his hands together. Down he goes now. Siddle's on his way over the wicket. He bowls. Pietersen drives into the onside, playing rather across that front pad. Spotted by Johnson at mid-on.
The other thing about scoring runs and why it is important, even though you're trying to save a test match, if you start scoring runs, it gives Ponting something to think about. At the moment, he's got a pretty aggressive field placing, and taking wickets is his main priority. But you start scoring runs, and then Ricky's got to start thinking about saving runs as well as taking wickets, so he starts to dissipate his forces.
Siddle over the wicket, outside the off stump, wide. Pietersen allowed it to go through to one of the heroes of yesterday, Brad Haddin, who scored an excellent 100. He's got a busy day ahead of him today, because Nathan Hauritz is certain, I'd think, to bowl a lot today.
He's very, in interviews, he's very honest with himself. If he feels like he's made a mistake or done something silly, he'll quite openly admit it, which, is a bit of a rarity.
It certainly is. Siddle over the wicket, bowls, inside edge from Pietersen, driving for the offside. It squirts away into the leg side. His first runs of the day, big up 2, but not where he intended at all. It's a little bit of early frailty there about his footwork, maybe. His fidgeting is taking his gloves off. Maybe he's battered his pad or something, but what's he up to? He's taking his helmet off. He's coming down for a chat with Strauss. We've got Richard Illingworth, who's the fourth umpire, coming on with some coats. Looks as if the umpires out in the middle have asked for their white coats. They're just wearing shirts at the moment. So we're going to have one umpire in a coat. Mr. Doctrove, rather more hardy soul. He's not bothering at the moment. 24 for 2. Do we have Haddin to start with, or are they going to go with pace? Pace by the look of it. In the form of Hilfenhaus. Can Hauritz do it, Ian? That's the question from Australia's point of view. I know you've got some fine seamers as well, but it is spinning, isn't it? And it's an opportunity for him.
Yeah, it'll be a big test for Hauritz. I think you would expect England to play him a little differently, particularly Pietersen. I don't think Pietersen showed him a lot of respect in the first innings, and I think that was part of what brought about his downfall. I don't think he's going to get a gift like that from Pietersen. Well, I mean, if he does, I think Pietersen would be getting a short message from the selectors. That would seem to be the only way to sort that out. So I think Hauritz will have to probably work a bit harder for wickets. But yeah, he's got a nice breeze, and he is when he's bowling really well, he does drift the ball very nicely.
Hilfenhaus then from the river end bowls to Andrew Strauss, who gets a little squared up here. The ball hits him on the thigh pad, and Hilfenhaus runs through, picks it up, gives the ball a polish, and walks quickly towards the start of his run up again. 24 for 2, 215 behind. Are England at the moment. The trees rocking around in that strong breeze that Ian was talking about. It's coming straight across the ground. It's a pleasant day, and if there are showers actually on that wind, they'll soon blow through. Hilfenhaus bowls on the off stump. Strauss noticed plays from the crease. This time gets bat on ball, and it's fielded by the bowler. There are extra overs today, of course, because of the interruption from yesterday, so 8 overs are added on. So the official close of play moves to 6:30 tonight. If there are interruptions, we can add up to an extra half hour on to that as well today. Hilfenhaus bowls. Strauss turns that away into the leg side. Hughes gets another run out to deep square leg. 25 for 2. So 2:14 behind. And of course, there's an extra half hour to be added on for overs as well. So could be burning the night oil here, Ian, if England do see it out, and there's an interruption or two. But 6:30 is the official close of play.
Except that breeze is a really good one for Nathan Hauritz. So if he was bowling at the same end, which is the River Taff end, same end as Hilfenhaus, good breeze for him to curve the ball away. It's just then a matter of whether he can spin it back. If he can do that, then he's going to be a very tough proposition.
Curious field here with a straight mid-on, short mid-wicket for Pietersen, and Hilfenhaus bowls to him. He comes forward, plays up to short extra cover. Let's run through this field then. We've got 2 slips of gully, and the offside, the man who fielded it there is close at extra cover. There's an orthodox point and mid-off. So in other words, a man on the drive in the offside but perhaps a little squarer than you might expect, more for a slice stroke than a meaty extra cover drive. Then there's a very straight short mid-on, the sort of position that they used to set for Graham Gooch, actually, when Alderman was bowling to him. Crouching on the edge of the pitch comes Hilfenhaus, bowls. Oh, Pietersen lets that go by. The ball brushes his pad. There's an appeal for LBW. I don't think it came back enough. And it's been given not out. They're coming back for a second, but it'll be a dead ball because Pietersen didn't play a stroke at that. So not playing a shot, the ball cutting back outside the off stump. It just brushed the face of his pad. I don't think it came back enough. I think that was probably a good decision. But some movement. And it's, from a bowler's point of view, it's always nice to get a ball like that in early, because it just gets on that batsman's mind that, OK, you can bring one back in towards me as well. That wasn't too far away. It's a good shot.
No, it's very close. Interesting that Brad Haddin was busy appealing and didn't take the ball cleanly, and it bounced away, went very close to the helmet. So if it hits the helmet, would it have been 5 with a dead ball call?
I think probably not, would it? I've never seen that happen. In comes Hilfenhaus, bowls, and Pietersen defends, pushing us away down to backward point.
I'm just thinking, because they're not, it wouldn't be 5 buys like it would have been before. It's now 5, what do they call it?
Penalty runs.
Penalty runs, yeah. So it might have been.
Perhaps it would have been.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
No.
Cricket's an impossible game. Someone will know. TMS at bbc.co.uk. An umpire will know. Batsman plays no shot. Ball brushes his pad. Hits the helmet. What's the outcome? Is it a dead ball because no shot was played? Or is it penalty runs? I don't know.
5 penalty runs, yeah. I don't really understand why they're penalty runs. Why they ever changed it from what it was before. I mean, if the batsman hit it and it ran along the ground and hit the helmet, then it's 5 runs to the batsman. But I don't know why they brought in the 5 penalty runs.
No, they keep tinkering, don't they?
Yeah.
No,
unnecessarily, I think.
Change already. And that Mitchell Johnson, maybe to use the breeze, is coming on from our end, so just one over for Siddle, who perhaps actually might prefer the other end anyway with the wind. Only they'll be queuing up probably for there, because that's the off-spinner's end too, you'd imagine. But this very much the end that you'd expect Mitchell Johnson to swing the ball. With the breeze coming from left to right, his left arm over, of course, the very low left arm, incidentally. And in he goes and bowls to Strauss. Oh, my word, that popped up in the air. Just off the splice of the bat. Katich, they howled. It just went past Katich at forward short leg. And then away for a single down to long leg. 26 for 2. A bit of excitement there. Some gardening, no doubt. And Strauss goes down actually to have a word with Pietersen about that one. And it did get up quite high, right up on the shoulder of the bat. I don't think it went through the top, but it's certainly higher than Strauss expected. It's funny how a pitch can come alive when the fielding side is in charge. Same strip, same sort of bowlers. They bowl better, mind you, the Australians, but the ball just seems to do a bit more when you've got 2 batsmen who are backs to the wall, trying to defend, trying to save a game. And the bowler's on top. Johnson moves in, bowls to Pietersen, down the leg side, he flicks it away in the air. Again, another howl of Katich, but it bounces once before Hilfenhaus fields at long leg. It was in the air for a while. 27 for 2. And Pietersen scores his 6th run, Strauss 9. Still 212 behind from the 3rd over of the morning, if you are just joining us. The forecast is pretty good. Chance of a shower or 2 during the day, but nothing prolonged by the look of it. And we can add on half an hour, up to half an hour of lost time, and the half hour of what was lost yesterday. Johnson bowls. Strauss works her way through Katich's legs at short leg and away for a single to the man who again is deep out there. Having criticised England for having that man out there throughout, I think I already looked to the same for Australia. It's just a gimme run. I don't think Strauss is going to go hooking it down there. It's just a nice single, thanks very much.
Well, I don't even think these days, most of the time, I don't think he's actually back there for the hook shot. He's back there to save a boundary when the guy flicks it off his toes. But, quite often, particularly on a slowish pitch like that, when the batsman does flick it off his toes, quite often it'll carry in the air to the umpire depth or even and you're a chance of getting a catch there.
Johnson bowls. Pietersen stands up, plays up to mid-off. 28 for 2.
And the same thing with the guy on the offside, although Mitchell Johnson hasn't got him out on the boundary, although he is very deep, the point fieldsman. But with that slower ball that he bowls to a right-hander, because he's angling across, backward point area is very much a catching area if the guy's looking to drive that slower ball.
As we saw with the Bopara in the first innings, 28 for 2. England 211 behind. Johnson runs away from us. Bowls. Oh, it's edged and doesn't quite carry to slip. Pietersen coming forward. It found the outside edge. Ponting was there ready for the catch. It bounced just in front of him. And now Pietersen goes gardening, tapping at the pitch there with some suspicion, looking for the replay, no doubt. He didn't do anything, actually, looking at the replay. But did found the edge, and lucky for him, it didn't quite have the legs on it to carry to Ponting.
It was a good delivery, actually. Pietersen had to play, and it's always going to be angling slightly towards the slips.
Pietersen waits. Johnson's on his way, bowls very wide. And Pietersen watches it go through. That's the end of the over. 28 for 2. 211 behind. Pietersen has 6. Strauss has 10. A good crowd in here now for the last day of a test match. If you are in the area, well, come on down. Come and see some test cricket for the first time in Cardiff. It could be a really nail-biting day today. Who knows what's going to happen? Bring a brolly, because there isn't really much protection from the elements here. Bring a brolly and a hat and your sun cream and everything else. Come well prepared and come and have a good day. I think you'll get in.
For all the talk about the pitch being dead and slow and everything, I mean, it's provided a pretty decent test match, which is always a good indication.
Hilfenhaus continues, bowls, and Strauss works him away off his pads, past the diving mid-wicket, comes square leg fielder, again out to that sweeper on the leg side. 29 for 2, 210 behind. Tremendous evening last night, one of those rather surreal evenings where sitting with Michael Holding, and of course you were there, Ian, and the wonders of modern technology. You can actually get the phone out and show Michael Holding for the first time film of Harold Larwood bowling. It's fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Great, you just press a few buttons and there it was. Michael had never seen him bowl before.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of footage of him before, and I mean, you've only got to look at the footage to know that he was damn quick.
Yes. Hilfenhaus bowls. Pietersen stands up, plays to one of those two straight men in the onside. That's good to see old Harold Herring in. And of course it degenerated down to Holding tearing in a boycott. It got replayed a few times, didn't it? The stumps everywhere. Tony Gregg, I'm afraid, if he's listening, sorry Tony, I'm afraid your Sandshoe crusher got a bit of a viewing last night. Great stuff. 29 for 2. Up comes Hilfenhaus. Bolt. Oh, Pietersen, my word, he's got away with that. Driving in the up, it just went past that man at short extra cover, placed precisely for that. Well,
you did make the comment earlier that he's a bit squarer than you would normally expect him to be. If he was where you thought he should have been, he would have had a simple catch.
Especially on a slow pitch, he's got to be a bit straighter, I think. But that was out. 31 for 2. Well, he had a stroke of luck there, Pietersen.
He'll say he placed it.
Well, he moved to 8. Hilfenhaus bowls to him. Oh, bowled him! Playing no shot. Oh, certainly in two minds. And Pietersen goes. Whoops of delight from the Australians. Again, a rather strange innings. Almost caught the ball before. Playing no stroke to that, or certainly in two minds about whether to play at it or not. And Pietersen walks away. His off stump has been uprooted. And England are 31 for 3. They've lost the wicket. They really didn't want to lose here. Pietersen just in two minds. He started to play, then he took his bat out of the way. It was a straight ball. And there he goes. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah, I think the fact that Hilfenhaus swung the ball out so much in the first innings, and Pietersen would have been there for quite a bit of that. I think he was worried about the outswinger, and he must have had it in his mind, wherever I possibly can, I'm going to let this guy go. And he was outsmarted by Hilfenhaus. Hilfenhaus bowling on the same sort of line, on off stump. I think Pietersen was expecting it to go away. It didn't go away. And, the old... basically, the only thing you really need to say in a team meeting is hit the top of off, and that's exactly what Hilfenhaus did. Yeah. It hit right on the bail of the off stump.
Well, that's the wicket that Australia really wanted to get it so early too. We're only in the fourth over of the morning. Pietersen's gone. Some Aussie chanting I can hear down there as Paul Collingwood comes out to bat and touches Strauss's glove on the way out. What a start for Australia. And England's backs now really firmly to the wall. They've still got 94 overs to go after this. The ball is still lying actually where it landed, which is down in front of us here. Down over the boundary. No one bothered to go and get it.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, the Australians were so excited about having got Pietersen out that they'd had their huddle, and in fact Hilfenhaus and Ponting had a long conversation about the field placing he wanted for Collingwood, and they all moved back into their position, and someone said finally, oh, the ball, we better go get the ball.
Yeah, well, they were huddling away. I can't imagine you fellas having been great huddlers, Ian, you and Dennis Lilly and Tomo and Rodney Marsh. I can't imagine that necessarily was a little group for huddling, was it?
It's interesting to see the footage from 72 when Massey's taking all the wickets at Lords, and guys are just sort of wandering over casually and just a light pat on the shoulder, well done Fergie, and then back into position.
Up comes Hilfenhaus. Collingwood's first ball outside the off stump, forced away off the back foot. We'll get a couple here through extra cover. Fielder in hot pursuit. They should get 3 actually, as that rolls to within about 5 yards of the boundary edge down there at deep extra cover. So a positive stroke from Collingwood, a bit of a punch. 34 for 3 with 1 over to go in the 4th over of this final morning. And a dramatic one indeed. Looking at war replays, he got very squared up, Pietersen, and he never actually brought he tried to bring the bat down in the end, but it's just far too late. He was determined, I'm going to leave it. Suddenly realised that he couldn't, but it was all too late. 34 for 3. Hilfenhaus moves in bowls, and Strauss keeps the bat just inside the line of that as it moved away outside the off stump. Hilfenhaus bowling beautifully. England at the moment really on the rack. 34 for 3. They've got some batting to do here, my word. Strauss 11. Collingwood has 3. More thoughts from Ian Chappell and then Henry Blofeld for the first time today.
Well, Ben Hilfenhaus was in tremendous form. Tasmania won the Pura Cup, as it was then, a couple of seasons ago, and he had a tremendous season, swinging the ball pretty regularly. And then the following season, he didn't follow it up with the same sort of year. But it looks to me as though Hilfenhaus is now back into that sort of form when Tasmania won the Pura Cup competition, and he was a very big part of it. I got a feeling he took all up for that season, somewhere around about 60 wickets for Tasmania. He had a very, very good year anyhow, and it looks to me as though he's getting back into that sort of form now.
It never occurred to me for a single moment watching Pietersen out there today that there was a man who'd set his stall to bat all day, I'm afraid, which was a little bit sad, really, from England's point of view. I mean, he was jumpy, he was all over the place, wasn't he?
Well, it's just shows you why when you're well set and playing well, why you need to make the most of it, because he didn't make the most of it in the first innings, and now he's got a low score in the second.
Johnson to Collingwood. He's up to the wicket now. Bowles. Collingwood plays that away around the corner. Down it goes there to fine leg. Hilfenhaus the fielder, and they collect a single. So Collingwood now goes along to 4, and the total 35 for 3. But there is something. It's such a big psychological blow, isn't it, losing Pietersen for England? And as you say, getting out in the first innings, he should really have gone on and cashed in then. He didn't. And looking back, I think in final analysis, if England do lose this match, which it looks now as though they may easily do, they probably lost it, in fact, on the first day. And here is Johnson in now. Bowls to Strauss. Strauss shoulders arms to one, not all that far outside the off stump, but it wasn't as close to the off stump as the one that Pietersen played no stroke at. Do you know, on the first day, so many of them got in and got out, didn't they? And it needed one to go on.
Yeah. I mean, the observation of the first 22 minutes is that England aren't playing naturally, not their natural game. I mean, Pietersen played far from his natural game. Yes. I mean, he looking to let balls go. There was one appeal for LBW not playing a shot, then he got bowled not playing a shot. Strauss almost got bowled with that ball not playing a shot.
And Johnson is in again to Strauss. Strauss just drops his bat on it, playing it really from the crease, coming marginally forward, and there is no run there. The ball fielded down at mid-off, and the score stays on 35 for 3. The arrears, they were 239 at the start of the innings, so they're 204 still.
the only way you're going to bat the whole day is by batting naturally. You can't suddenly, I mean, you can, if you're an aggressive player, perhaps you can just temper it a little bit, but you've still got to play. If you see a ball that you think you can hit to the boundary, you've got to hit it to the, or try and hit it to the boundary.
Johnson bowls to Strauss. It was well up. Strauss comes forward perfectly correctly, plays that one down to mid-on. Siddle picks up, aims. It was like a burst of electricity hitting him. He aimed immediately as if to shy back at the stumps at the week he was in. Didn't, and then started to rather assiduously polish the ball. So it's all just little sort of things happening out there. 2 slips to gully, cover, mid-off, mid-on, forward short leg Katich, deep backwards, deep square, about 25 yards in from the fence, and a fine leg. And here comes Johnson again, kicking up his heels past the umpire. He's there, he bowls, and Strauss again, this characteristic push from the crease. He gets up on his toes and never doesn't really come forward or back, just watches it onto the bat, gets everything behind it. And he went out on the offside, and there was no run there.
I just get the feeling, looking at Strauss and Collingwood, even though Collingwood's only been there for a few balls, that they've had a team meeting and there's been a bit of a decision to shorten the backlift. Both players seem to be virtually playing with no backlift at all. I don't understand why you have a team meeting for batting.
No, I agree with that. Here comes Johnson again into Strauss on his legs. He turns out around the corner. In fact, it ricocheted off Katich there and then bounced back towards the wicketkeeper and Haddin, and they were unable to take a run. 35 for 3 at the end of the over. 11 to Strauss, 4 to Collingwood. You would think in a situation like this, above everything else, batsmen should bat as they normally do, because as soon as you try to bat as you don't normally do, therefore your concentration is going, so you're thinking about the wrong things.
You'll make a nonsense of it. That's exactly right. Yeah, and the reason why, I mean, I understand having a team meeting for how you're going to bowl to the opposition, but the reason why I say it's pointless having a team meeting for batting, take my brother and myself as an example. I mean, Greg's 5 inches taller than me. He's going to bat a lot differently than I'm going to bat.
Of course. Here comes Hilfenhaus in, bowls that Collingwood. Collingwood plays that away to the right of mid-wicket, and they go for the single, and indeed get it. So that's 36 for 3. Collingwood goes along to 5.
So if you have a team meeting and you say, well, right, this is the way we're going to play Hilfenhaus, or this is the way we're going to play Hauritz, I don't, it's silly. Each batsman has got to work out for himself how he's going to play each bowler. I mean, I might talk to Greg about, mate, I'm having a bit of trouble with John Snow, and how do you play him? I might glean something from him.
Hilfenhaus once more in, bowls to Strauss. Strauss pushes forward from the crease. It goes very quickly out there to Katich at mid-off, and there is no run.
But to say, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that that's what the team meeting has said, but it looks to me like they're taking a shorter backlift. To have this team meeting and say, all right, well, we're all going to shorten our backlift. I mean, some got Brian Lara, for instance. How's he going to shorten his backlift? Gary Sobers had a backlift very similar to Brian Lara. It's ridiculous to tell those guys to shorten their backlift.
And it is Hilfenhaus once more to Strauss. Strauss turns that round the corner. It goes down there to fine leg. And it is Johnson there who comes in and fields. And they get just the single. So 37 for 3. And Katich now goes... Collingwood goes along to 5. Katich, of course, made that marvellous 120. And what an important innings, looking back on this match, that was. Seen from the perspective we're looking at now. Of course, Ponting's 150 was absolutely wonderful. But Katich plays such an important role at the start. And it is Hilfenhaus once more. He's in, he bowls, and Collingwood, a bit of a help skip and a jump, turns that round the corner. It goes down to fine leg, and Johnson's there, throws in nicely to Haddin, but not before they've come back for the second run. But he gets a nice round of applause for a good piece of fielding. 39 for 3. Collingwood now goes on to 7.
good sign there for England. They ran that very hard. The first one, they ran it hard, looking for the two. Important because sometimes you might sort of think, oh, well, we're batting to save the match, let's conserve energy and just jog through for a single. But runs are extremely important for England, and good to see that they are running hard.
Well, 239 is a deficit they can knock off. Once they've knocked them off, Australia have got to get every run after that. Here comes Hilfenhaus, and Collingwood drives. That slides off the face of the bat just behind square. It's a long chase for Hussey. Dye stops about 10 yards short of the boundary, and they run a couple of runs. Hussey's throw in, I think, squirted out of his hand and was sort of backing up there by North, and all was well. So 2 more to Collingwood. He goes to 9, and it's 41 for 3. A pale sunshine comes over the ground. The trees are wafting away in the breeze at the far end. These lovely trees all the way around this ground. It really is. It's been so picturesque and so lovely. The hills in the background are at the top of their form too. And Hilfenhaus is in outside the off stump. No stroke there from Collingwood. And through it goes to Haddin. Also a hero of yesterday. He's made that wonderful 100. And goodness me, 100 that was greeted with such joy. You could hardly believe it. It was lovely to see. 41 for 3 at the end of the over, 12 to Strauss and 9 to Collingwood.
Yeah, he's a very wholehearted cricketer, Brad Haddin. There's a lot to like about him. The way he plays, the way he bats, but the way he thinks about the game of cricket. He's just a very aggressive cricketer. Everything about him exudes aggression. And I was saying to Jonathan Agnew earlier on, one of the other things I like about him, if you do an interview with him, for instance, when he got that 94 in Perth and he got stumped trying to hit a 6 to bring up his 100, he is very, very honest in those interviews.
Yes, which is a mark of the man, isn't it? Good. Johnson now it is. It's Mitchell Johnson coming in from the Cathedral Road end in. He bowls a Strauss, who tries to tickle it round the corner. Doesn't catch up with it. That was going quite a long way inside him, and it went through to Haddin. But one of the joys of this first Test match at Cardiff has been the visual joys of the ground. It really is. It's in a marvellous setting, the River Taff behind those trees at the far end. They're not allowed to build those stands any higher, and indeed for the television cameras above the sight screen, they had to get special permission. So it's going to be quite difficult for them, I think, to get bureaucratic permission to increase the size of the ground. But for the moment, that doesn't matter. Johnson is in. It's short. It's a bouncer. And Strauss just ducks underneath it. Going through the motions, it was outside the off stump. It's no trouble at all. A wasted bouncer. And Haddin takes and has an animated conversation with Michael Clarke and Ricky Ponting there behind the stumps. It's always part of cricket, isn't it? And the powerhouse talking, seeing what any advice or anything they've seen, they can pass on to each other.
It's important to have a thinking wicketkeeper because you're probably not at this early stage of the spell from Mitchell Johnson.
Johnson it is, in now bowls against Strauss, short one. Strauss just pulls out of the way, lets that go through at Haddin. A wicketkeeper sees everything, doesn't he?
Well, the point I'm going to make is that Ricky Ponting at some stage might go to Haddin and say, how are they hitting the gloves? Because that'll be an indication to you whether he's tiring. It was something I would do with Rodney Marsh about Dennis Lilly. So it gave you a bit of an indication as to whether it was just about time to take him off or whether he still had some petrol left in the tank. All those sorts of things you can find out from a thinking wicketkeeper.
Johnson once more, starting in quite steadily, up to the wicket now, he's there, he bowls, Strauss comes forward, plays no stroke, outside the off stump, and through again to Haddin. Yes, you making this point yesterday, you were lucky having Rod Marsh, who was very well, and I'm sure Raymond Illingworth would have been grateful for Alan Knott's input in the same way.
Jeffrey Boycott told a lovely story this morning. He was talking about how snowy, every time John Snow would go to Headingley, he'd bitch and complain about the track not being fast, and it wasn't this and it wasn't that. And Jeffrey said this little quiet voice from the corner, being Alan Knott, said, but yes, John, but every time you come here, you get 5 wickets.
Here comes Johnson again, in short outside the off stump. He's been a bit all over the place in this over, and Strauss plays no stroke.
So nothing much gets past the wicketkeeper, eh?
No, indeed. And of course, Notty, you were talking yesterday of the great joys of cricket, certainly since I've been watching cricket, which is an immense number of years, was going down watching a Kent match on a drying pitch pitch, and deadly, running in and bowling fast medium pretty well, and Knotty jumping here, there and everywhere. Wonderful.
Even worse as a batsman was a dampish pitch, because Deadly then was unplayable, and how Alan Knott used to take some of those deliveries, I've got no idea. He was brilliant.
And Johnson, it is in again. Out short, out coming into the batsman a fraction, but far wide enough for Strauss to play no stroke. End of the over, 41 for 3, 12 to Strauss and 9 to Collingwood. And Ian Chappell's leaving me, but of course, good wicket keeping is one of the great joys. Just as good fielding is one of the great joys. Those of us lucky enough to have seen Jonty Rhodes more recently, and of course Colin Bland, the South African in the 1960s, who was simply phenomenal. And of course those lucky enough to watch Somerset when Vic Marks was in the covers will always have something to remember.
Morning, Henry.
Good my dear old thing.
We're going to have some off spin. Nathan Hauritz is on. Get him on early.
You always bring new and exciting information when you come to the microphone. You're wearing a very smart pink shirt today. It's rather the colour. It's rather like the one that Agus is wearing in that cake, isn't it?
Obviously, I regard him as a bit of a trendsetter.
Well, there you are.
Here comes Hauritz. I think that suddenly the pressure's off Hauritz, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Hauritz has been the best of the three spinners in this match so far. And he came in undoubtedly the worst, didn't he?
Yep.
And so psychologically, he's in an entirely different situation. He's got a bit of wind to play with, and I should think he may be a man who's going to cause England a lot of problems today. It'll be very interesting to see.
Well, I agree with all that. He's got no pressure on him. It's a fantastic situation to be in. He's got 200 runs to play with before England are in credit, and he's got some nervous batsmen who are feeling the pressure, I'm sure. 41 for 3, Pietersen gone.
It was a big psychological blow, that, wasn't it?
Well, of course.
And he never really looked as though he was going to stay, which was so disconcerting and unsettling for England. He played some very weird and wonderful strokes before getting out, leaving a straight one alone.
Yes.
It happens to the best, doesn't it? But again, I feel that where England lost this match, in retrospect, was on the first day.
They haven't lost it yet, Henry.
No, certainly not. But
it's a bit like, that was that famous thing in the 54. Len Hutton was run out in Adelaide and said, they've done us again. And Dennis Cobden said, well, hang on, Captain, I haven't got in yet.
Quite right, point taken. Hauritz starts in from the taff end. He bowls now to Collingwood. Collingwood goes, turn that run around the corner. It spun quite a long way, and Haddin went right across on the leg side and took it, and Collingwood, in fact, in the end, didn't really play a stroke at it. And already from that one can see there is plenty of turn. One expected there to be more and more turn in this pitch, even if it was going to be a turn of a very slow nature. Hauritz is in, he bowls. Collingwood is forward, hit on the pad. The ball bounces back to Haddin. Underarms it down the pitch to the bowler. We've got a slip and a forward short leg. Those are the two close fielders. And an investigative seagull, the first one of the day, flies low across and has a look at what's going on. And here is Hauritz in a bit quicker, and Collingwood on the back foot just drops his hands on it, and it's picked up there by Katich at forward short leg, and nothing is done. Can't help looking at those floodlights in the corner of the ground. Compared to the Australian floodlights, English lights are fairly puny, aren't they? Perhaps that's an unfortunate word, but they're very modest in comparison. Hauritz bowls, and Collingwood is forward. Like with a pad there was a sort of half-stifled appeal. But half-stifled appeals fall on deaf ears as far as umpires Dotrove and Alim Dar are concerned, although I dare say Bopara might not be in entire agreement with that statement. He got one last night. It might have been just a little bit unlucky, especially when one considers all the decisions umpire Alim Dar said not out to earlier in the match.
Dotrove.
Oh, Dotrove, you're quite right, it was. Here comes Hauritz. In again, that one's taken on the pad, it goes round the corner, yells of catch it, and there was no run there, fielded at fine leg, and already the pressure is on, and now we got 4 men round the bat. We started with 2. We got a forward short, a backward short leg, a slip and a silly point. And Hauritz is in. He's there now. He bowls. Oh, and forward comes Collingwood. He's beaten. And the close fielders jump. What a very good first over. And if everyone can maiden over, and if everyone dare say it, Victor, the rating is rather on the wall.
Well, it was an excellent over,
Wasn't
and
it?
Collingwood looking extremely tentative and defensive in outlook. Well, you can sort of understand that England situation, but also the first over is spin. But it'll be an over that gives Hauritz a lot of confidence. News is, I suppose it's good news, unless you want to come along. It's sold out here today, we've been told. And it looks sold out too. I think just about everyone's got here, but no tickets available for the last day. And who knows when they'll be leaving.
Well, this is it. It could be very much the late night oil, couldn't it, tonight? And it's Johnson who's going to start in from the Cathedral Road end. He's in, he bowls to Strauss. Strauss is forward driving down to mid-on. Siddle picks up. And Siddle, as he always does, picks up an aim ball, starts to throw back to the keeper, but then realises that it's a fairly pointless thing to do. And a bicycle goes through the gap at the far end of the ground, going down, and another one. Goodness, lots of bicycles. If one can't have buses, one has to make the best of bicycles, doesn't one?
It's a pretty bus-free ground.
And there are one or two police horses that walk along there too, in that gap I've seen.
No buses.
No buses at all. And it's Johnson again in bowls, and Strauss up on his toes, just plays this gently down to Hughes at mid-off, and there's no run. He throws it across to Siddle, who is at mid-on, and Siddle starts the polishing process before handing the ball back by personal service to Johnson. He throws himself a catch from his right hand to his left, and then back again, and full of the joys of spring, turns, licks his fingers, wipes them on his trousers, grips the ball, makes sure that Strauss is ready, and here he comes. 2 steps in the gully and a short leg, they go down, and he's up to the wicket now, he's there, he bowls, Strauss defends, cautiously, watchfully, carefully, and goes to Siddle there at mid-on, who this time does return the ball to Haddin. And I don't know what makes him decide whether or not to unleash the throw to the keeper, but that time he came in joyfully, picked up and threw it to Haddin, who was sort of halfway up to the wicket. And the clouds are looking just a little bit greyer, a bit of blue over to our right, but that's gone away. We had quite a heavy storm about 9:30, not heavy storm, a shower. And let's keep our fingers crossed. Johnson is in short, and Strauss ducks underneath it. No danger in that one, it was much too short. And Haddin again goes across and takes. Yes, the crowd sitting in the big stand there on the cover boundary with the left-handed Strauss batting, sitting still, really enjoying it. A lot of Australians in the crowd, no one will be enjoying it more than them. The Welsh here, absolutely thrilled. The first ever Test match has gone off in such a blameless fashion. England supporters won't feel it's gone off in quite such a blameless fashion. And here is Johnson. He's in, he bowls outside the off-stump, no stroke from Strauss, who shoulders arms, and through it goes there to Haddin. History repeating itself, but Strauss obviously very grateful for any ball he doesn't have to play a stroke at, as will be any of the England batsmen today, because they really have a big hole to dig themselves out of. They trailed by 239 on the first innings. They are 41 for 3, which means they are still 198 runs behind. And that is quite a mountain to climb. They've got just 7 wickets left. Pietersen, the man, bowled this morning by Hilfenhaus, playing no stroke to a straight one and losing his off stump. And here is Johnson in, bowls to Strauss down the leg side. He tickles that one round the corner and is going to get one out there to deep backward square leg. And it's Hauritz who comes in and fields. 42 for 3. Strauss goes on to 13. Collingwood has 9. It is the end of the over, and after another succulent word from Victor Marks, it will be Chris Martin-Jenkins.
Well, I think it's going to be key how he can go about playing Hauritz. In that first over, Collingwood extremely passive, and Hauritz looked dangerous. He's got now Strauss on strike. Strauss will have a lot of rough outside his off stump, a little bit wide for Hauritz, but coming round the wicket could just pose a few problems. I think it's important that England just don't allow Hauritz to settle completely. Obviously, they can't be gung-ho against him, but I don't think they can be totally passive either. They've got to impose themselves at some point, otherwise his confidence is just going to continue to rise. One will do something, and he's off and running. It seems strange to be saying that in a way when England have bowled 76 overs of spin and got 1 wicket, but it can change very quickly, and the mood of the match is so different with Hauritz bowling now to England batsmen who you can almost Well, actually, to be fair to Strauss, he looks pretty calm in most situations, but there's tension out there and a reluctance to play many shots at the moment.
You're so right. I mean, there was talk of targeting Hauritz before the match, and indeed, I think Moore, we got 100 for the 18, the Lions. Here comes Hauritz, first ball of the morning, and turns, not the first ball of the morning, first to Strauss, and it turns sharply. And Strauss was in position to play it, and in the end had no option but to leave it, because it really did turn quite sharply.
Well, that's off the pitch. That's not out of the rough, that one.
He's got 2 slips and a forward short. He bowls to Strauss, who goes forward carefully and pushes into the ground, and it's fielded at short leg. 42 for 3. Tense atmosphere here. Clouds high. Sun half out. As Hauritz round the wicket to the left-hander. Again beats Strauss. Or for the first time beats him. Strauss was pushing at that. And it spun sharply past the outside edge. Yes, and when it came to it, it was in a way, it was Swann who was... I don't think he was deliberately targeted, but he was punished. In comes Hauritz round the wicket and bowls from the taff end, left alone, and taken by Haddin, who's vaguely reminiscent of Ian Healy, not least because of his red hair, and keeping in a helmet. I think Healy started that idea. It's become a regular thing now. In comes Hauritz and bowls outside the off stump, and Strauss square cuts, rather proving Vic's point that they've got to keep taking the runs on offer for all sorts of reasons, really, but that mentally relieves the pressure just a bit and will make Strauss feel better. 4 runs to the backward point boundary, a very well played square cut. There was 1 ball off Johnson that he might have square cut earlier, but he resisted the temptation. It takes the England captain to 17 and the score to 46 for 3. Hauritz in with his light-footed approach, and again he's caught behind! He went for the square cut again, and this time it spun and took the edge, and Haddin did the rest. And England are 46 for 4, and Hauritz has struck in his 2nd over, and that was a bad way to get out.
Well, he just hit the previous one for 4. Let's have a look. This one just bounced a little bit more, a little bit quicker. He just got underneath it. Top edge. And Hauritz has the vital wicket. If any man you felt was going to bat all day, it was going to be Strauss. And he's gone. Hauritz taking a vital wicket again. It's 4 in the match for him. England in the mire.
They really are.
All human drama is here. And we've got a lovely email from Andrew Robertson, which goes some way to explaining what an agonising game this is to watch. And I'm going to read it quickly while the wicket has taken place and Matt Pryor comes out. He says, I could go out. I would have a better day if I went out, but I won't go out. I will stay in and listen to the cricket, and by doing so commit myself to a day of stress, false hope and frustration. In addition, my girlfriend and I split yesterday, and if that's not enough, my cat died last week. They owe me. They owe me. You can sense his desperation. Well, we'll do our best to cheer you up, Andrew, but it's not going particularly well at the moment for you. But thank you for those thoughts in all sorts of different ways. I suppose a few people feel the same.
I think there are, and it does take courage to listen or watch in these circumstances.
It takes probably more to play, and they're under real stress now. Matt Pryor's come out.
They'll be listening in Australia, you can be sure of that. And with some enjoyment.
Yes.
46 for 4, and already, although Matt Pryor, in many people's opinion, is quite capable of being a specialist test batsman, he's officially not, and therefore already the 4 of the 5 specialist batsmen are out. Collingwood alone remains, and overs galore for Australia to finish the job. 88 more overs. That was the last ball of the over. Extraordinary how often a wicket falls to the last ball of an over. And Siddle is going to bowl to Collingwood with 2 slips and a gully. cover, mid-off, mid-on, a short leg almost square, not very close, and another one just in front as Siddle bowls to Collingwood, who plays it past the backward of those two shortish legs down to long leg where Hilfenhaus feels, and they get a single. Well, Pryor is a skittish batsman by nature, but in Sri Lanka, when long rearguards were required a couple of times, certainly on one occasion, he very nearly saved the day with Ian Bell, I remember, when Murali was in his pomp.
Well, there's a chance for someone to be a hero, there's no question about that. 47 for 4, and
Gonna need 2, really, isn't it? Probably.
Yes, there's a chance for 2 people to be a hero. I mean, in cricketing circles, people still talk about their old Trevor Bailey, Willie Watson, 1953.
Don't think Australians talk about it, but in comes Siddle and bowls on a good length, and Pryor plays securely to one of the close-ish men on the side, mid-on. Yes, we go back to these straws time and time again, don't we? But Watson and Bailey, Botham, Flintoff, etc., are all lost in the mists of time as far as Australians are concerned. Pryor with what looks like a bat almost outside the off stump, with his legs in line with the leg stump, waits for Siddle outside the off stump. He lets it alone, and it's taken by Haddin. No one knows if England get a long stand going, whether the weather will come to their rescue, but at the moment the clouds are high and there's quite a bit of blue sky, and it's a lovely day actually in Cardiff. It's been an extremely well-run test match, whatever else it may be remembered for. The pre-planning was really first class. In comes Siddle and does outside the off stump, and left alone by Pryor. The case of getting it right on the night, because the one-day international was a less happy experience.
Well, I got here unusually early this morning, so when I climbed the stairs up to the media area, there were many other people around, and I think it was about 16 good mornings I got from the staff.
And accompanied by a smile.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I mean,
I was quite exhausted. I was practically hoarse by the time I did my level best to return all these good mornings.
In comes Siddle and bowls outside the off stump, and Pryor square cuts, thumps it hard into the ground. It looked like a 4-ball, and he didn't quite get it. There's an inviting gap between cover and extra cover, but he hit it straight to cover on the bounce. Hauritz, the fielder. Clarke and Ponting in jovial conversation at first and second slip. Hussey's in the gully. Here's Siddle again running in and bowling a ball that cuts back a long way, and an athletic take by Haddin, leaping at the ball, taking it in both gloves far to his left. That one leapt back. Good thing it was so wide of the off stump. 47 for 4, a little bit in this pitch, sort of fresh atmosphere this morning. We had a heavy shower about an hour before play started. Pietersen bowled Hilfenhaus 8, and Strauss caught Haddin bowled Hauritz 17, the men out.
Yes, suddenly it doesn't seem such a bad hit to bowl on. Just remember the agonies England went through. 181 overs they bowled. Eventually got 6 wickets. They're fighting hard in Worcester though, the girls.
Good. Clutch at any straw, and comes Hauritz and bowls Collingwood came forward and the ball hit him on the front pad. There was a stifled appeal. The ball ran away into the offside. There are 4 men round the back. What's happening?
Well, England, who were 59 for 5 sometime yesterday, are now 135 for 5.
In comes Hauritz, gives out a lot of air, turns a lot, pitched on or just outside leg stump and going further. Well taken by Haddin. So rather similar to the Australian innings.
Yeah. Beth Morgan 34 not out, Jenny Gunn 40 not out.
In comes Hauritz and bowls a flatter one, which is turned between the 2 short legs for a single by Collingwood.
We've got this
Hussey goes back to field, sorry.
wonderful machine that throws things up, bits of information. So I can tell you that in Colombo, Sri Lanka are 100 for 2, having bowled out Pakistan for 90.
That's the second test already, isn't it? Sri Lanka won the first one rather against the head on the last day when it in Gaul. Pakistan had very few to get, about 80 or something, and they lost their last 8 wickets cheaply. It's one place Gaul that you can really be sure it's going to be difficult to bat on the last day. Hauritz with 4 men round the bat, bowls to Pryor for the first time, and Pryor goes back, looking initially as though he was going to try to hit that away through the covers, but he checked the shot. Good movement of the feet by Pryor. 48 for 4 England. Perilously placed. Sun is brightly out now as Hauritz, right arm off spin from the River Taff end, bowls to Pryor, who cuts. Beautiful cut, actually. It's not going to be 4, it's going to be cut off in the corner of the ground. By Hughes. And England get 50. Thankful for small mercies. They're 51 for 4. But that was a shot against the spin by Pryor, but he got right on top of it, and that was a proper late cut. He goes to 3. And Collingwood faces again as a breeze ruffles the trousers of the close fielders. Hauritz bowls well wide of the off stump, a little away drifter trying to tempt Collingwood into something indiscreet, but Collingwood not going to try and sweep that as a certain batsman did in the first innings.
Yes, well, there's plenty of pressure out there, and at the moment the Australians holding all the cards and anticipating a wicket at any moment. Sometimes after a while you get into a phase, well, hang on a minute, where are they going to get a wicket? We certainly felt that when the Australians were batting for hour after hour, it seems, but at the moment, it could come anywhere at any time, and Hauritz could get several of them. It's been a strange tour for him, a strange week for him.
A happy one.
At the moment, yeah. I mean,
Anything was, he didn't get a bat. Didn't get the chance to become the 5th or 6th centurion of the innings. Now Siddle, with whom Clarke has just had a word, comes in and bowls outside the off stump, and Pryor follows it and gets 4 runs along the ground through about 4th slip. No third man, but he did follow it. And whether it's just Pryor's nature is to want to get on, he will be much happier when England look as though they might get near to Australia's total and get into credit, but which has its virtues as long as he doesn't get up.
Well, he's got to. I mean, you can't agonise too. He's got to play his own way. He's more likely to stay in playing his own way, which is quite aggressively.
Siddle bowls to him again outside the off stump. In certain circumstances he might have driven at that, but he's realistic enough not to have done so. He's 7 not out. It's 55 for 4.
I know that for those of you who want more Ashes cricket, I'm told that 5 Live Sports Extra will have commentary from Worcester on the women's test match tomorrow.
Tomorrow? I thought you might have some respite for our friend who's
no, Andrew
lost his girlfriend.
Andrew, don't listen. Just
Siddle goes in and bowls outside the off stump, and Pryor plays an injudicious, totally inappropriate to the situation shot.
Well,
driving
not to the situation, to the ball. I think.
Well, right.
I mean, it was a length ball, just short of a length. He tried to hit it on the up through extra cover.
I mean, McLaren and Dexter would have done well to get a touch on that, and well might Siddle have had a word, but Pryor looks sort of. Well, he looks actually in 2 minds, but certainly partly intent on counter-attack here. Siddle comes in, bowls to him. It's well pitched up. He drives again. This time slides away to cover. Not quite where he was aiming. It must have been a little bit of away movement. Siddle again either has words or gives meaningful looks at Pryor. Talking of which, apparently Kevin Pietersen and Mitchell Johnson had a little bit of a set 2 before play began today. Pietersen was doing some throwdowns, and Johnson said something to him, and Pietersen went up and eyeballed him, so I suppose that'll go unmentioned. I didn't see it, I hasten to add. It hasn't done it. All right. In comes Siddle, and bowls to Pryor, goes across his crease and plays from high on the bat, off the back foot into the gully. 63 for 4. Got to hear these things first on TMS, haven't you?
You old news
hounds around. But I didn't witness it. I hear merely. Sun out now. Trees tossing at the far end. Some of the more silver-leafed ones glinting under a blue sky as Siddle, strong and sturdy, bowls outside the off stump, and it's left alone by Matt Pryor, who, after all these adventures, is already England's top scorer. He's 15. Oh no, he's not. That's the scoreboard.
The scoreboard is going berserk.
27 now. Yeah. He's not England's top scorer, actually, as he can't be.
The scoreboard's it's on the main one over there. It's gone from.
Somebody's having a joke, I think.
They've given England another 20 runs and stuck Pryor on 27.
Perhaps there's a new law has been passed this morning that anybody who takes 4 wickets before a side gets to 50 has to have 20 runs taken off. 75 for 4 according to that board, so we must...
There's 55, Chris. Pryor's on 7 with Collingwood 11 as per the scoreboard.
Hauritz comes in and bowls to Collingwood, who goes back to an off break and just stops it down, blocking it to forward short. Hauritz just spins himself 1 catch, transfers the ball into his right hand and comes light-footedly in, tripping in, and bowls and peels, as he well might, because Collingwood was padding it away from outside the off stump. The ball went up off the pad to Ponting at silly point. Worth just making the umpire think about it with a polite bill. He comes in now and bowls, and again Collingwood takes a chance by padding it away. He can't do that all day or he will be given out. He isn't this time. Alimdar says no, but it was a bit closer to the off stump, but it was a much more vigorous appeal. Umpire marks.
It's always it's not out. It's not out.
Enough, but
you've got to keep shouting just to get Collingwood playing a shot.
Yeah. Hauritz again bowls him. That's a bit shorter and plays it close to the short legs. It stopped just on the bounce by Katich, who is the squarer of the two. Hussey is the other one. Always looks a bit Bill Lawry-like, Michael Hussey. Something about the angle of his cap and the way he holds himself. Clarke is at slip, Ponting at silly point. Hauritz bowls, and again he's padded away from outside the off stump. Boos from the crowd. I'm not sure from Australians suggesting that Collingwood should be playing a stroke or what, but hit him on the thigh. It turned. You couldn't possibly have given it out, but he's got to be wary, Collingwood. In comes Hauritz again. He bowls to Collingwood, a bit shorter again, and Collingwood turns his wrists on this to keep it down and play it to mid-wicket off the back foot. It's tense and fascinating stuff, and England are 55 for 4, although according to the board they're 75 for 4. And they're going to have a drinks break, which makes the timing of our shipping forecast for Radio 4 listeners perfect. Over to you. But we will carry on, as always, for our enlightened digital listeners on Sports Extra and ABC, of course. And Jim Maxwell, armed with newspapers, is coming in to join Vic Marks.
Yeah, and he's going to be quite a contented man. Well, he's always contented, but it's been a good first hour for Australia. Finding a few demons in this pitch and a few demons perhaps in the head of the English batsman. We've seen Kevin Pietersen make a big error of judgment, shouldering arms to a straight ball from Hilfenhaus, having looked very edgy throughout his time at the crease. So that's a huge boost to the opposition, because Pietersen in form and playing well could quickly take the game away and get England close to parity, but that's not going to happen.
Siddle bowls after drinks, and he's cracked into the covers by Pryor, and there's no run.
Yeah, you know, obviously you can't just say to players, oh, go and play your natural game. That's a lot of rubbish. You know, a fifth day, lots of pressure, you're losing the game, you're already 2 down. I mean, that's nonsense. But most players cannot bat without scoring a run. It creates even more pressure on them. They're going to make more mistakes. So they have to play a reasonable way. As I say, a little more caution, cut out the risky shot, and just play with common sense. But they do have to score and hit the bad ball, and they're not doing that.
Siddle bowls to Pryor, and he pushes towards short mid-wicket. Jim Maxwell and Jeffrey Boycott here for Radio 4 long wave listeners who just come back from the shipping forecast. And
for
the score is 4 for 55.
I mean, Collingwood, if you watch Collingwood play a lot, which I do, he plays off spinners, piece of cake. He's a bottom-handed player, he's an onside player. He would hit him to the onside. I don't mean over the top, but he'd knock it to mid-on for 1, or wide mid-on for 2. When he really gets in, he'd smack you over the top, get that bottom hand onside. He's just poking around in his crease to Hauritz.
Siddle bowls short, and it's pulled by Pryor. Out to backward square along the ground. No alarms there as North collects, and Pryor is 8, Collingwood 11. Pietersen lost his off stump, not playing at Hilfenhaus for 8, and then Strauss was caught by the keeper Haddin off Hauritz for 17, and that was 4 for 46. And now Collingwood's down there.
See, Gavaskar could bat all day. Gavaskar could bat all day without, he'd probably make 100 in the whole day, wouldn't rush, he'd pick off the odd very easy ball. He had the mindset for it. Many people don't.
Siddle bowls, a good delivery coming in at Collingwood. Short backlift, he taps it away out into the covers. But it's not something you see very often in this game, where teams are playing long innings to save a match. I mean, Ponting had to do it and did it pretty well at Manchester 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
But even in that case, for him, it would have been a little out of character to play that way, but he managed to do so.
Well, they've got so much one-day cricket, 20 over, 50 over cricket nowadays, that so many of them don't do it. Forgotten how to do it, never done it.
Siddle in at Collingwood. Collingwood leaves outside the line of the off stump. But there's men around the bat, and Hauritz all of a sudden is looking quite a threat with his flight and bounce and a bit of turn.
Threat? He looks like Jim Laker.
Now, you weren't saying that about him a couple of days ago, Jeffrey.
No, because the batsmen are playing like twerps. I mean, they're batting against him as if he's bowling hand grenades. Crikey. I feel when he tosses it up, they think it's going to explode.
Well, he's hoping it will. And there are a few Aussies listening who think the same way. As Siddle bowls wide of the off stump, maybe needs to make him play a bit more, but looked like he was trying to get some swing there and got the line wrong. 4 for 56. England need to get to 239 to bat again. The other interesting thing for Australia, if required, is of course later in the day they'll be able to have a second new ball, because we're getting 98 overs maximum today.
Do you think they'll need one?
They might.
Yeah, I know, I'm kidding. No, but look, I mean, when I played with my brother, I was a lot better than him. He was a good club player. He bowled left-arm spin. If I just allowed him to bowl and blocked it, he'd look like Johnny Wardle and Tony Locke all rolled into one. And that, you know, it's not so much he's a bad bowler. No, it's that he's a bad bowler, but at test match level, I'm sorry, his figures, I've seen him bowl before as well, doesn't say to me, you know, he's a great bowler, Hauritz, but if they allow him to bowl with men round the bat and everything, look at the big gap between mid-on and... If this was the first innings of the match, very first, they'd be knocking him in that gap. Mid-on's gone back about 7 or 8 yards.
Hauritz close to the stumps, pitches up, and it's hit back on the bounce by Pryor. Yes, well, it's what goes through the mind, and the scoreboard pressure, all that sort of stuff.
It is a mind thing. Yeah. Definitely a mind thing for England. That's why I've already said I didn't anticipate him to start a player batting out the day.
Hauritz goes in, Pryor back, cuts well. No one at home down there. This could go close to the boundary, but Hughes in pursuit will stop it as it trickles in its last 10 or so yards of travel into that pocket, that corner of the ground. 3 runs. It wasn't a very good ball from Hauritz, and it was put away. He was looking for a bit of a variety, but he underpitched and Pryor picked him off to go to 11.
In these situations, it's mental discipline more than anything. And, you know, they got so used to playing lots of shots, biff bang wallop, and one-day cricket.
Hauritz comes up and he bowls, and it's a bat pad opportunity to Katich. He can't get a hand under. He dived to his right, and it didn't quite carry. And as Jeffrey suggested, maybe he's half a metre too deep.
Half a metre? Let me tell you, from the edge of the cut pitch, he's 2 yards away or 2 metres. You could take a single to him nearly. I mean, it's ridiculous. England are not looking to swipe it or whack it.
That bounced and took a bit of glove and pad, didn't quite carry. Now Collingwood's probing forward and pushing the ball away to silly points. So this is potentially the biggest day of Nathan Hauritz's cricket career. The way things are going at the moment, he has the chance against somewhat tentative batting to deliver for Australia. He's coming up, he bowls to Collingwood. Collingwood shuffles and it almost plays it into his stumps. It took his body, it went down onto the ground. Haddin threw up his gloves because just for a moment it looked like coming back onto the stumps, but Collingwood got his boot in the way.
Yeah, every ball you see is like a hand grenade. I mean, it comes down one pad, the other pad, trickles around, and he just gets his boot there to stop it going on leg and middle. And I mean, the lad's bowling all right, but they're just making him look like a world beater.
Good footwork from Collingwood to keep it out. He almost had the own goal as another ball hits the bat and trickles back towards the stumps, but just wide of it as he tried to kill it stone dead. So a good over from Hauritz. Almost had Collingwood caught in close and then bowled after it came from his body. It's 4 for 59. High tension here at Cardiff with Pryor and Collingwood 11 apiece.
Well, quite honestly, it's good test match cricket, isn't it? I mean, the fact that Australia are streets ahead of England throughout the whole test match, I mean, they're very much on top. And although it may be disappointing to England supporters like me, it's really fascinating. It's the old way of test matches, one side getting on top of another team and just grinding them down with better cricket. And England have just not shown their mental application. I mean, you have to have mental discipline and your mental application. You have to change your game just a little bit.
Short mid on, short mid wicket. Siddle bowls, Pryor plays, walking across and tapping it out on the offside. I love the newspaper coverage here of all sport, and the cricket in particular. There's probably half a dozen articles, columns in today's Sunday Times. I'll just pluck one line out that I found a little amusing, and it's playing into the down under backyard a bit to say this, but it's Martin Johnson who said,
very funny man,
watching England trying to take a wicket yesterday was only a shade less amusing than watching somebody try to drill through Ayers Rock with a Black and Decker.
He's very funny man.
That's good, isn't it?
Very.
Siddle runs into bowl. Pryor plays quietly down in front of him back towards the bowler.
Well, our papers are full of the Ashes. They have been for a few days beforehand, and they are every day here, and they will be until after the Lord's Test. But if England are 2-0 down, I don't think they'll be writing quite so many articles.
You think they'll be seeing Jerusalem if England are 2-0 down every day before the
Well, they ought to be. No, I mean, this is a big day. They have to save the Test. I mean, England haven't won at Lord's for what, since 1930?
34. Forward comes Pryor to Siddle. Good, solid defence away on the offside.
And it was a Yorkshireman did for you there.
Verity. Doing a bit of dampness in the pitch or something.
Yeah, well, uncovered pitches.
Yes.
Played him for a long time, right until even beginning of my career. We played in uncovered pitches.
They're a bit stiff, I think. 68. The rain saved Australia, didn't it? At Lord's. I think they were bowled out very cheaply, and there was a lot of rain, and they got out of it. But there haven't been too many games where they've not had the better of a draw or one. Here's Siddle striving. He comes in. He bowls to Pryor down the leg side, and there's almost an appeal for a catch down the leg side. Ponting was keen. There was just the look for a moment as if he got a wafty little shot glove on that as it went down the leg side. Ponting was particularly excited. Haddin didn't seem to be. The ball passed just over the gloves down the leg side.
It was a whisker down the leg side.
Yeah.
it was so near, you wonder if he did get one, but it was so faint that they didn't realise. I don't know, but he survived anyhow. But
Haddin did inquire, but it wasn't his normal appeal, so you'd have to think it missed as Siddle bowls and back goes Pryor. He's getting a bit of that inward movement, and he knocked Pryor over in the first innings doing that.
He bowled well. Well first innings, and
he runs
bowled
in
well here.
All day, this fella.
Which state's he from?
Victoria, a country town called Morwell in Victoria, and his parents, Steve and Alison, are sitting up there in the stand.
Well, they must be pleased because he's had a good test match. He's bowled very well.
Yeah, he's the new brigade. I mean, these are the 3 fast bowlers that did the job in South Africa, and they've stuck with them. Siddle comes in to bowl down the leg side, and it's an awkward ball, and it's going to go for leg byes, I think, or byes. It's missed everything. Very awkward one for Haddin. It bounced twice, and he just couldn't cover it as he dived, and it went past him and down to the boundary for 4 byes. Again, Siddle, though, getting that ball to move. 4 for 63. Pryor and Collingwood 11 apiece, and England are far from settled in this partnership, with some well-directed deliveries from Siddle and Nathan Hauritz, who's about to go again at the taff end.
Well, they're having a chat of the 2 England batsmen. I think that what they should be chatting about, I hope they are, is to change the way they play Hauritz. I mean, I hope they're not just talking about what they're going to do in London and which restaurant they go to for dinner. They really need to be talking about, listen, we haven't played this lad very well. We've allowed him to bowl at us, dictate to us. And I'm not saying they should try and hit him. That would be foolhardy to try and hit him over the top and then hold out to something. That would be stupid. But you can't just go on like this, because when Pryor and Collingwood have been facing, there've been some alarms and scares almost, if not every ball, every other ball, haven't there? They've looked as if they might get out. No, I don't know what the Aussies are talking about. They're taking a long time.
There's a problem with the ball. I think I don't know whether it landed in a puddle or something down there, but they're working hard on it. Whether it's gone out of shape or whatever. Ricky Ponting's been giving it a huge massage on his strides, and Alim Dar went with a walkie-talkie to chat to the 4th umpire, I think, perhaps about maybe the potential of a replacement ball here.
No.
I think it's got damp.
Well, you're not allowed one just because it's got damp.
No.
You're just unlucky. Did you bowl or bat when you played, Jim? I never asked you this all the time I've known you. When I played?
I remember bowling to you in the nets at Cranbrook School years ago when you used to come down for a net. You used to love a net, didn't you?
Oh, Cranbrook was a beautiful school. Beautiful.
Good pitches.
Lovely pitches. Got you in good form.
You used to bat there, just like batting there. The ball never deviated.
Lovely.
Yeah. You would remember those pitches. A little guy called George Eccles was the groundsman. He was a brilliant groundsman.
Oh, lovely school.
Yeah.
Lovely facilities. They were fantastic to us on tour.
Well, we got a slip, a silly point, short leg and a leg slip. Hauritz is ready to go after a bit of a delay, and Collingwood's onto his stumps and playing down the onside.
We had another school in Queensland when we played in Brisbane.
Churchy.
That's it, Churches.
Yeah,
they were very good facilities.
Yeah.
Nice people. We always went there to practice on the morning of a match and before the match.
Hauritz tosses, back goes Collingwood, hits it on the bounce away to Ponting. He's got good reflexes in at silly mid-off.
That's where I first met Carl Rackerman as a young man bowling at me in the nets.
Mocker.
And then he went on to play for Australia.
He did. He played 12 test matches. He was here in
Good man.
1989. As Hauritz bowls, back goes Collingwood, turns it past Hussey at backward square, and they get a single. He's got a very dry sense of humour, Carl Rackerman. I think Neville Oliver, who was here in '89, he told the story about saying that he'd seen Carl and said he was lumbering, and Carl wasn't sure about this as Hauritz bowls quicker, and he beats him outside the off stump. Pryor tries to chop that away, and he misses completely. And he's just a bit uncertain about this expression, lumbering, and he said to Neville, lumbering, Neville. Would that have anything to do with timber?
I see. That was a shocking shot.
It was.
It was well pitched up, and he stayed on the back foot trying to drive it.
Here's Hauritz. He bowls again and is turned away towards short leg. But Carl played a lot of county cricket here as well. Played 1 or 2 counties, I'm sure, in a short time. But, one of a number of very good Queensland fast bowlers. Michael Kasparovich and Andy Bickle here with the group at the moment. Hauritz is doing the job. He bowls to Pryor. Pryor knocks it down again, just playing with the spin around the corner to Hussey. So 4 for 64, Pryor's 11, Collingwood's 12, with Pietersen out for 8 and Strauss 17. We're going to have a change here, and after Jeffrey Boycott, you'll be hearing from Jonathan Agnew.
Well, I've watched this morning, and how many overs has Hauritz bowled? The Scouse scorer.
Oh, he's bowled 5, Jeff.
He's bowled 5 overs, slow off spin. He's looked as if he's bowling with hand grenades. We've got mid-on back about 8 or 10 yards, 8 or 9 yards. So if you push it to mid-on with the spin, you get an easy single. They've got a straight mid-wicket. We haven't had one batsman try and drive it, just push it with the spin.
Well, here's Siddle outside the off stump, and Collingwood plays no shot. 64 for 4. You're having a chunter, Jeffrey?
Well, it's as if they're terrified to get forward to him. They just stayed back, tried to watch it off the pitch and poke it behind square for a single, and they haven't looked to get down the pitch once and just drive it, just even hit it, just a push drive for 1 or 2 and swap the batsman round, rotate the strike, just keep it ticking, don't allow him just to bowl 6 balls at the same guy. I mean, pathetic batting.
The sun's out, Siddle's on his way over the wicket, bowls, that's worked away from round about middle stump through mid-wicket by Collingwood. They get a couple. He's had this rather curious setting again on the leg side with a short straight mid-on and a short mid-wicket, both set there, as they were for Pietersen actually when he was batting, with a deep square leg and a long leg, so there's big gaps there on the leg side.
Which is my point, Jonathan. When we have these 10, as they say, Giles Clarke says, and Hugh Morris, the managing director, we have these 10 core backroom staff, but I know there's another 6 was in the West Indies. That's 16 of them. Those 16 aren't helping these 2 batsmen to bat at the minute, are they?
Wouldn't have thought so, Jeffrey.
No.
In goes Siddle, bowls, and that's worked away again to the same sort of area, a bit squarer this time, so there'll only be 1 for Collingwood. The ball's on its way. 66. That's 67 for 4.
Maybe they should ask one of the backroom staff to come out and tell them how to bat.
I do take your point that you do have to think for yourself.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Me, I clear them all out, our captain. You lot, you're redundant. Go and get your pay and go home. That's it. Finished. Go home. Now you lot, you can start carrying your own bags. They even have people carrying the bags to the cars and the bus and everything. I mean, it's ludicrous. Start thinking for yourself.
Siddle moves in, bowls to Pryor, forward, nice shot, and a diving save there by that short mid-on fields and prevents a run or 2. Might have been even 4 actually, if it hadn't been there.
You know, when we used to go out on the morning of a match, county cricket, test cricket, we'd organise between ourselves a few slip catches, wouldn't we, or a few long catches. No, it's organised for them by the coaching staff, isn't it? I mean, they don't have to think, it's time for a few catches. We've had enough now, the coaching staff says, not the player says. Can you imagine telling both? And both would have his catches and say, that's enough for me. I don't want to get sore hands. I know what I want, and he was a brilliant catcher. Mike really would say, fine, no problem. Somebody else would say, I'd have another half a dozen.
Siddle over the wicket, bowls turned away firmly. That's a good shot. There should be at least 2, might be 3. Out to that deep mid-wicket area again, it will be 3. Long chase to the fielder up from deep square leg, who gets booed for his trouble. 70 for 4. Well, I'm going to cheer you up, Jeffrey. I'll tell you what to do.
What?
Go and see Thelma.
Thelma? What can she do?
Thelma is at Nash Point Lighthouse. And I tell you what, she's made some fantastic Welsh cakes.
I tell you what, Thelma, I'd like to send the 16 backroom staff to you. You could lock them up.
In the lighthouse?
Yeah, lock them up in the lighthouse and don't let them out.
Well, I'll tell you what, she knocks out a lovely cake. Many thanks to Sarah, John, Ben and Matt, who are sitting in the Riverside stand at the moment. Thanks to all of you. Blowers has enjoyed one. Off goes Siddle. Bowls on the off stump, and this is played carefully by Collingwood into the onside to one of those 2 men there. 70 for 4 at the end of the over. Very bright card too. That'll cheer you up, Jeffrey.
No, I'm cheered up. I mean, obviously as a former England player, I'd like England to do well. For a long time, I was quietly convinced that Australia would win the series 2-1. In the last few weeks, with England's preparation, and then Brett Lee got injured and whatever, I thought England have a really good chance of winning the Ashes, because they actually have to win the series. It's not enough to tie.
Hauritz from the River End comes in, floating that up, and played by Pryor to mid-wicket. Well, we've got to hope they learned something from it, haven't you? That's the
keep
point.
Saying that.
Well, they have to.
How the hell can you learn if you can't think for yourself?
Well, they've been given an object lesson in how to play. Actually, haven't they? They've been shown how to bat, they've been shown how to bowl. Hauritz from the far end comes in, bowls, and Pryor lays from the crease. It's picked up there at forward short leg. Katich with a helmet on. There are 4 men around the bat. Good crowd. I'm sorry for saying that it wasn't a full house earlier. I mean, there are still some empty seats around, but it's officially sold out. So if I sold you a bit of a dummy there, I'm sorry if anyone has come down. Here's Hauritz bowling outside the off stump, and this edge, catch it, they shout, is gone. Trying to cut against the spin, and Pryor's great kick at the ground as he walks off, I think, sums that up. Trying to cut an off spinner against the turn when the ball is spinning is, I'm afraid, just about every piece of coaching advice you could ask for, and hardly surprising that Pryor has paid for it with his wicket. It was short of a length outside the off stump. It bounced, it actually took the glove, and that is a sort of lesson that you learn, well, I don't know, under 11s, I guess, don't cut the off spin usually, isn't it, Geoffrey?
Well, he's got brains in his boots, but well bowled, Hauritz. Well bowled, lad. You know, I don't think he's the greatest off spinner there's ever been, but I give credit where it's due. They've allowed him to bowl this morning. He's bowled very well. He's tossed it up. He's bowled with a good loop. He's spun it, and he's got a couple of wickets and full marks to him. I try never to be churlish when people play well, but I mean, England have played him as if he's bowling hand grenades, and they're not bowled with any. He just bowled good stuff, and we played badly. I mean, big cheer goes up for Andrew Flintoff coming in, but Andrew again is a biff bang wallop player like Pryor, plays shots, and well, maybe entertaining, but I don't think Australia will mind that if he gets out. You know, he can hit a few 4s if he wants.
3 wickets have gone down this morning. The first, Pietersen for 8, Strauss for 17, now Pryor for 14 as Flintoff walks out. I might be tempted to have a spin at both ends for Flintoff, but that's by the by. He's coming out to face.
You got to give
Hauritz.
You got to give that Siddle a few overs. He's bowling quite well, and you got to give, I don't know, Hilfenhaus after that. He's good bowler, bowled well. He's moved the ball. I mean, if they had 2 quality spinners, you know, decent spinners, but I mean, the left-arm spinner Michael Clarke, I know he's had a performance in Bombay where he bowled him out. He was a minefield. But I mean, it really ought to be the seamers at the other end.
He doesn't like men round the bat, Flintoff, and he's going to have
them. He doesn't. Hey, listen, the way some of the others have batted, they don't like men round the bat, and they're supposed to be batsmen.
Well, it's 70 for 5.
I did use the word supposed to be.
4 men crouch there, they're waiting, plus the keeper, as Nathan Hauritz in the sunshine bowls to Flintoff, who goes back into his stumps, turns that away into the leg side. Katich very busily picks up. He hit it with the spin into the leg side, hitting it hard down into the ground. But I can't just say again that Pryor's shot just goes against every bit of coaching advice you're given. But nowhere to go, have you? If you start playing that shot when the ball is turning a bit. Flintoff, oh, an inside edge, trying to drive. Ball goes scuttling down to long leg. And straight through the legs of, I think it's Hussey there at leg slip. 71 for 5, 168 behind. England at the moment lining up for an innings defeat.
I'm trying to ring up and get my car earlier.
You might.
Oh dear, this is pathetic.
Hauritz, up he comes, bowls, and that's turned away by Collingwood, stopped by Katich on the bounce. At forward short leg to end a successful over. Well, Nathan Hauritz, lowly rated when he came in, and everyone talking about England's spinners. Well, he's comprehensively outbowled them. And
mind you, to be fair, the Australian batsmen have out-battered England. Yeah. I mean, the England batsman has been, I can't say it on the BBC.
No, Geoffrey, you can't.
It's absolute rubbish. some of the shot playing, some of the thought process. I mean, I'm just blaming the England spinners. I mean, but batting like they did first innings, never mind this second innings, and giving wickets away. They only seem to know how to play one way. And if they have to change and play with a bit of discipline, they do what Pietersen did, make a right cock-up, don't they? I mean, he just left it. I mean, it's a straightforward, good length ball. He's all right when he's attacking. And it's like Pryor, he only knows one way to attack.
Well, Siddle continues. Flintoff loosening up down there. He's playing a few shots. Not an attacking field. 2 slips a gully, 3 in the covers. Mid-on, backward square leg and fine leg. Siddle runs in hard. He's there. He bowls to Flintoff. Well, he missed that by a long way. Playing and missing outside the off stump, and that bit hit the seam, moved away. As I was saying earlier with Ian Chappell, it just looks different when the batting side is under pressure. The bowlers are running in hard. Even the slow, flat pitches that haven't helped very much suddenly look altogether dangerous. And that did bounce, to be fair. 71 for 5. Siddle walks back to his mark. He's got a sweatband on both forearms, white ones. The wind ruffling the back of his shirt. In he goes, past umpire Doctrove, short of a length this time, and just played away down the long leg by Flintoff. So 1 run to him, 72 for 5. England still 167 runs behind. Lunch now half an hour away. Forecast good, there's plenty of blue sky about. Cloud broken and high. And now, well, even more bizarre field for Collingwood, in that there are now 3 men catching in the leg side. None of them actually with helmets on or anything, but one at short mid on, short mid wicket, short square leg. Down they all go. Siddle bowls to him, and he's back playing up towards mid off. And of course, Collingwood, a big leg side player, getting his bottom hand involved, and that's clearly what the plan is here. Trying to get him caught by one of those 3. 72 for 5. Victor's arrived. A horse named after you that won yesterday, Victor, did you see?
No.
Where's the sports?
What's it called?
Well, it was brought to my attention by a very happy punter by the name of Matthew Engel. Goes Siddle, bowls outside the off stump, finds the edge, and Collingwood started to play at it, then take his bat out of the way. Again, it's uncertainty rules, and the ball hit the edge and ran through third slip, and there was no run. The 345 at York yesterday, Victor, was clearly owned, the winner of, by, I suspect, a disgruntled Somerset supporter of the early to mid 1980s.
I haven't caught up with you yet. Hits only Vic.
Hits only Vic.
I thought a lot of batsmen did that. When it came to Taunton and Joel Garner was playing.
16 to 1 apparently, came screaming in.
16 to 1.
Yeah. There you go, in goes Siddle, bowls on the off stump. And Collingwood plays into the onside. And there's no run, so there you go. Matthew Engel spotted that. In fact, Matthew Engel won a couple of quid on it by the sounds of it. Nice to see him at the cricket. Now Siddle's kicking out all sorts of stuff there on his back foot. Lumps and divots coming out. Mr. Doctrove looks at it. Oh, they're like, I don't know, someone who discovers in the morning his prized lawn has been dug up by his dog. And he's just kicked away the evidence, as it were. And it's lying there on the side of the pitch. Never a good feeling, that, incidentally. My labs have started digging up the lawn. In goes Siddle. Bowls outside the off stump, full. And Collingwood lets it go by. 76 for 5. So 163 behind. Flintoff and Collingwood have a chat, but Pietersen 8, Strauss 17, Pryor 14. I have to say every one of them again contributed to their downfall. Pressure, of course, accounts for all of that. But look at the shots and you look at error.
Yeah. Well, error. I mean, Strauss it looked as if it was there to cut. It was a case of execution. We'd just been saying if the ball's there to hit, you've got to hit it. It's just that he didn't hit it in the middle of the bat. He did edge of the bat. Obviously, Pietersen was not functioning properly because you can't leave straight balls. No. We know that. And you're right about Pryor. If you've been watching the game, it's not turning very quickly, but it is turning.
Hauritz bowls, Flintoff forward, and Ponting at silly point. I mean, you'd have loved to see the batsman come and try to cut you on a pitch that was turning a little bit.
Yeah. I mean,
they do it. Hauritz over the wicket, bowls. Flintoff takes a little half pace down the pitch and then again defends. 76 for 5. 4 men around the bat. Flintoff touching his toes for a moment there as if he's, feeling something or loosening himself up. Delaying Hauritz slightly. Now he's on his way and that's pushed away. Will it go for a single? No, he's sent back by Collingwood. Clarke very quick to run out of slip. 76 for 5. Crowd sitting, watching. Very much in two camps, really. A fair amount of delight, I'd imagine, down there at Long Off at the moment. With their backs to the river, a lot of Australian supporters. Hauritz moves in, bowls, Flintoff drives. Hauritz fields off his own bowling. Otherwise, rather glum faces, I'd imagine, amongst those here supporting England today. Hauritz comes in, bowls, Flintoff back into his stumps. But it is slow enough to do that. He played with a vertical bat out to mid-wicket.
And he looked to play it on the leg side rather than the offside. There's a huge gap square on the offside that would have tempted Pryor. Seduced him, really, to play in that shot. And he scored a few runs down there as well.
Hauritz, that's pushed away. Flintoff will get a single this time. Up comes the deep point fieldsman. 77 for 5. England trying to cling on here. They've got 25 minutes to go till lunch, but it's the overs we're counting down. There's still got 76 to go.
Yeah, well, that's no good thinking of that. You don't, in this situation, you can't think of massive targets way ahead. You think about the next 5 minutes, the next over, the next 10 minutes. Then think about, get to lunch.
Yeah.
You can't think, oh my goodness, we've got about 75 overs. It's not a good target to set yourself.
This is the change that I thought, actually, he gave Siddle one more over, I appreciate, but Michael Clarke's coming on to bowl at Flintoff. I rather like this because he's more just a part-time spinner, but he is a spin bowler. He does spin the ball. He can put men around the bat, but also I thought, will Flintoff really not take a bit of a chance at him? And I rather like this. Yeah. Early in his innings, before he's got in, tease him a bit.
Well, it's a great time to bowl because Flintoff's not a great defensive player, as we know. He's not such a good batsman as he was. He hasn't. But he's got a dilemma. I mean, I suspect he'll just try and play him on merit.
There's a slip and a man catching in the offside as the first ball's on the leg stump, quite flat, and turned by Flintoff to mid-wicket. It's a man at deep backward square, as you'd expect, and a mid-on. Saving a single, but deepish. Mid-off, extra cover quite close. Deep point and a backward point as Flintoff cuts, or forces really, off the back foot. Ball of short of a length just outside the off-stump. Hussey fields. That takes Flintoff away from the strike. 78 for 5. Pietersen 8, Strauss 17, Pryor 14 have been dismissed this morning. We've got now 22 minutes to go until the lunch break. Collingwood settles in over his bat. Clarke moves in, tosses up a left armour which spins away from wide of the off stump. Collingwood plays no shot at it. To come, Broad, Swann, then Anderson and Panesar. It's on the leg stump, played carefully again by Collingwood. Fielded by Haddin, the wicketkeeper, coming out from behind the stumps. He's got a helmet on, green and gold wicket-keeping gloves as You'd expect, of course, now he's crouching, gloves apart, which is unusual. That's outside the off stump. Oh, Collingwood aimed a drive at it. It was very wide indeed. And Haddin didn't collect it cleanly. I don't think he edged it, looking at the body language there, but he all but did. Floated up, tossed up wide. Come on, have a go at that, they're saying. And Collingwood did. Unusual, that stance of Haddin's. Go how wide apart his gloves are. Leg stump. That one brushed away, probably off the pad. And through for a leg by they go to end that first over of Michael Clarke. 79 for 5, 20 minutes there are until lunchtime. Flintoff has 4, Collingwood has 19. More from Victor, and then to take us to the break it'll be Henry.
Well, I was going to say it's a lovely English scene, but it's a Welsh scene, I suppose. Lots of green trees, verdant outfield, but the actual playing surface, it's not that different to playing in the subcontinent. The pitch is brown, and we're on the 5th day. There's quite a bit of rough, and it's turning. It's not turning with great viciousness, but the combination of the ball gripping and the tension of the situation, the pressure of the situation, is combining to make batting look very difficult.
Hauritz it is, in, bowls to Collingwood. Collingwood goes back into his stumps, drops that down beside him, and it's wicketkeeper Haddin on the leg side who picks up. Still 4 men round the bat. Clarke at slip, Ponting at silly point, Katich at forward short leg, and Hussey at backward short leg. They're the immediate danger men, and here's Hauritz again from the taff end, bowls. Collingwood waits for it, just plays that down in front of him, and it's fielded by Katich at forward short leg. Otherwise, deepish mid-on, mid-wicket, deep backward square, mid-off, deep cover. It's the rest of the field. And here is Hauritz again, in, he bowls, and Collingwood comes forward, takes that on the pad, and it's Clarke who goes to his right at slip and picks up. It's, goodness me, what a depressing day it's been for England, but who knows, maybe we're lulling the Australians into a false sense of security and they'll get a packet at Lord's. Here's Hauritz in, there's Collingwood forward, playing this just past Ponting at silly point. Ponting goes quickly after it as though his life depends upon it, and they don't get a single. The crowd is lovely, they're absolutely full house, shirt sleeve order, bright sunshine. The weather's behaved really pretty well during this first match here at Cardiff, and here is Hauritz again, in, bowls, and oh my goodness, Collingwood looks as though he wanted to make himself a bit of room to force that through the offside. It turned on to him, and he rather in an ungainly manner straightened up and played it back to the bowler. There's a bicyclist with a yellow Dayglow jacket going along at the other end of the ground. His head just over the top of the fencing there. Rather exciting. And Hauritz it is, in, bowls now, and Collingwood goes back, turns that round the corner and gets one down to Johnson, a deep backward square leg. And a cheer of relief for every single, every run that allows England a slight respite. The score 80-5. Remembering England started its innings 239 runs behind, so they've still got quite a way to go, 159 to be precise. It's 20 there to Collingwood and 4 to Flintoff. And Flintoff is now going to face the bowling again of Michael Clarke, whose best figures in India 6 for 9, which are impressive.
It is. He's very much an occasional bowler, but just on a couple of occasions, I think it's happened in Sydney as well. He suddenly gets a quick burst of wickets.
Here he is round the wicket, bowls to Flintoff, gave it some air. Flintoff waited for it, killed it, and he was picked up at silly point by Ponting. Slip and a silly point only for Clarke. And bowling this slim, bowling in his shirt sleeves, tied tight button to his wrists. He's up now, he bowls, and Flintoff goes back very cautiously. Collingwood goes back very cautiously, I should say. And the ball is played back down the wicket. Flintoff standing massively at this end, and here comes Clarke again. Collingwood goes back and whips that away to deep backward square leg, and it's Hughes out there who fields and keeps them to a single. So 81 for 5 now. Collingwood goes to 21, and Flintoff takes the new guard from umpire Dotrove scratches his mark and looks round. The tension here, it's very tight out there, my goodness it is. And here is Clarke again. He bowls it short and Flintoff goes back and cuts and gets a run just in front of square. Out to Johnson coming in there from the cover boundary. So Flintoff goes to 5 and it's 82 for 5. And Collingwood is back in strike. It's very much cat and mouse cricket going on. A seagull flies over and has a look, and here comes Clarke. He bowls, pitches this one up. It's driven not exactly wholeheartedly by Collingwood. It goes as far there as north at extra cover, and there is no run. Clarke runs in very close, suddenly emerges from behind the umpire's back, in bowls, and that one's worked away there by Collingwood to mid-wicket, and they go through for the single. Hughes is after it, and one more to Collingwood. He's 22. It's 83 for 5. It's the end of the over, and it will be Flintoff to do battle against... No, it won't. It'll be Collingwood to do battle against Hauritz.
Well, by recent standards, that was quite a tranquil over, wasn't it? Clarke bowling his left-arm spinner, just dragging the ball down a little bit and allowing both Collingwood and Flintoff to pick up singles, which is something, and not be grovelling and groping looking for the ball. Hauritz has bowled well, though. He's got a good situation to bowl in. He's got quite a nice pitch to bowl in, although there is no pace. But to the right-handers, he's made sure he's got that ball outside off stump, tempted them to try and hit through the offside. Pryor couldn't resist, caught cutting.
Hauritz in now, bowls to Collingwood, who goes back, forces down to mid-off. They go for a quick single. Siddle fields, returns the ball quickly to Haddin, but they have made their ground, the batsmen. So 23 now to Collingwood, 84 for 3. And the massive figure of Flintoff, the bat looks like a toothpick in his hand, a rather a gleaming toothpick in this lovely sun. Wind, nice and windy, and the wind's a good thing, because if there is rain about, it'll make it move over pretty briskly. Hauritz in now, bowls to Flintoff. He's there, and Flintoff forward. That's in the air, and it went just over the head there of Katich at short leg. Whether it was bat, but no, it was a run. It was in the air, and that's been an inch or two lower, and Katich got that. He came forward, it hit the edge, and as Flintoff had the luck that it ballooned just out of Katich's reach. So 85 for 5. Flintoff has 6, and my goodness me, that was nearly a 6th England wicket.
Yeah, well, he lunged at it. Unfortunately for him, he must have got an inside edge. Certainly that's what the umpire has decided, because he's given runs. And Katich couldn't quite get up for it.
And here comes Hauritz again to Collingwood. He's in, he bowls, Collingwood goes back, makes a bit of room, hammers into the offside, and at a deepish cover, Hughes fields and returns on the bounce to the bowler. So 24 to Collingwood, it's 86 for 5. And even though runs are coming in singles, there's nothing remotely approaching safety out there as far as the England batsmen are concerned. In comes Hauritz again. Flintoff is forward, plays it on the bounce straight to Ponting at Silly Point. Ponting very quick then. He feels close at Silly Point and he almost moves in as the bowler bowls. It must be disconcerting if you're batting against him. The crowd is sitting on the edge of their seats watching this spellbinding piece of cricket. Here comes Hauritz again. Forward comes Flintoff, and that one is... The way is taken off the ball there by Ponting, and it just goes trickling out on the offside, and a combination of Siddle at mid-off and the bowler complete the fielding. Flintoff prowling around in his crease like a tiger, a caged tiger, and... here is Hauritz once more. He's up to the wicket, he bowls. Flintoff gets a bit of air there, but he doesn't take the bait. He just pushes it on the bounce to Ponting at Silly Point, and there's no run. The end of the over, 86 for 5. 6 to Flintoff, 24 to Collingwood. And with Flintoff, you feel that his natural instinct is having to be controlled very consciously, don't you? He wants to come forward and belt it, but he knows he mustn't.
Well, he's allowed to do that, but he can't hit it up in the air and get caught at mid-on. If he could guarantee to do that, that would be fine. The curious thing about Flintoff is that he's come back from injury so often and seems to be able to bowl, by and large, perfectly well. But batting has been elusive, batting form.
Clarke now, it starts a new over to Collingwood. Collingwood's forward, Ponting there at short leg fields. And at short leg at Silly Point. And here comes Clarke again in bowls. That's a full toss, and it's put away without any fuss at all over the head of short mid-wicket, and it goes out to the mid-wicket boundary. That was a blow for freedom. It's brought Collingwood 4 runs, taken him to 28, 90 for 5 now. That was one that slipped, so to speak. It was a nice, juicy full toss and got what it deserved. It'll make Collingwood feel a little easier. Here he is again, round the wicket. Clarke bowls, and that's down the leg side, and Collingwood goes to try and hoik that away, and it's hit on the pad. The ball bounces back down the pitch, and nothing. Collingwood now comes forward, removes a bit of loose stuff, walks slowly back, the wind just flicking his shirt, the back of it, turns now and faces Clarke. Clarke in bowls, and that ball is forced away to cover point, and there's no run there. North is the fielder. Clarke slowly back to his run. In now, bowling just almost from behind the stumps. Bowls, and Collingwood comes exaggeratedly forward. Plays that one out to Hughes, coming in from shortish mid-wicket, and there is no run. And Clarke again up to the wicket. Bowls now, and Collingwood plays a rather crab-like defensive stroke to Silly Point. It's the end of the over. 90 for 5. Collingwood is 28. Flintoff is 6. Well, that full toss gave them a slight moment's respite. But
well, at least he hit it for 4. And didn't hole out to mid-wicket. It was a very bad ball, but Collingwood is looking extremely watchful and wary and not entirely relaxed, but he's hanging on in there, but he's not necessarily, neither of this pair yet, are giving English supporters much real confidence that there is a way ahead.
And of course then in about 9 minutes time they disappear into lunch, and then they have to come out again afterwards and start to rebuild all over again. It's very much in Australia's advantage, the entire situation. And of course for these bowlers it's lovely. They've got everything to bowl at. They've got no worries. They can have fielders round the bat. It doesn't matter if runs come within reason.
No. I mean, runs might be a factor if England play well, but the other thing about runs is that runs relax the batsman. They feel more comfortable if the scoreboard is ticking around.
Well, it's Hauritz now to Flintoff, still the 4 men round the bat. He's in now, he bowls, Flintoff goes back, plays that to short mid-wicket, and North picks up and polishes the ball vigorously on his trousers, and there's no run. The full house crowd here at the last day of a test match. We don't always see that by any means, but what an occasion this has been for Cardiff and Wales. And it is Hauritz again into Flintoff, who goes back, plays that out square on the offside. Ponting from Silly Point goes back and picks up. Just for a moment I think Flintoff might have thought there was a run there, but he didn't hit it hard enough. It just trickled and was always within range of Ponting. Hauritz once more comes in, he's up to the wicket now, he bowls, pushes that, pushed away by Flintoff on to mid-wicket. North the field doesn't pick it up cleanly, but it doesn't go beyond him really, and there is no run. He's got quite a quick little run for an off-spinner. Hauritz bowling with short sleeve shirt. He's up to the wicket now. Twinkle, twinkle. Over comes his arm. Flintoff watches it onto the back foot, plays it down the onside of the pitch, and Hauritz picks up and then rubs it vigorously on the taut seat of his trousers. Flintoff does a bit of gardening, and everyone out there trying to dissipate a little bit of nervous energy. And Hauritz can't wait to get in back at Flintoff again. It's a lovely game of chess. Here comes Hauritz in. Flintoff plays forward, and Ponting pouches that one on the bounce at Silly Point. Moving forward as he did so, isn't it extraordinary how he likes to come in? And he's only 1.5 yards, at very most 2 yards from the batsman. And his keenness is tremendous. No one will be loving this more than Ponting. determined he is to win this series, and Hauritz it is in bowls. Flintoff just shuffles across his stumps, plays that from the crease, French cricket-wise almost, toes pointing back down the pitch, drops the ball in front of him. It is Katich there in the helmet who picks up at short leg, and it is the end of the over. 90-5 is the score, 6 to Flintoff and 28 to Collingwood.
And they're whisking through the overs, and they're trying another spinner now. Marcus North is going to come and have a bowl, and he'll bowl like Hauritz, he'll bowl off breaks, and he's picked up a few wickets in his time for all the various sides he's played for. He's got quite an option of occasional spinners. He's got Hauritz as his sort of professional, who's now bowled 11 overs, 2 for 18 today, and must be feeling a little bit more content with life in England now. He's got Clarke, we've seen briefly, didn't really threaten too much, if we're honest. We've got North, who bowls off breaks, and the most interesting option he's got at some point, if he wants, it's Simon Katich, who bowls out of the back of his left hand, who, if this pair stay together for a while, he'll come and have a bowl as well, I'm sure. But for the moment, he's going to give Marcus North, not his first bowl in Test cricket, he has bowled before, I'm sure.
Here's his first ball, in bowls to Collingwood. Collingwood comes forward, and Ponting at silly point picks up. 4 men round the bat, Clarke slip, Ponting silly point, Hussey backward short leg, and Katich forward short leg under the helmet. And here comes North, and that's down the leg side, and there's a swing away. I think my belief is that went not off bat but off pad. No, it's 4 runs. It did go off bat, but it didn't go very strongly off the bat. It was off the edge, and umpire Dotrove signals the 4, and it wasn't a very convincing stroke, but it was 4 runs nonetheless. So 32 now to Collingwood, and 94 for 5. North it is once more, in bowls to Collingwood. Collingwood waits for it, plays back defensively. Hughes at short mid-wicket fields, and there is no run. Really is, it's fascinating, isn't it, as a game of chess, this. Where's the bishop going to go next move? Here comes North, in again, bowls, gives that one a bit of air, but Collingwood won't be tempted. He kills the spin, drops it beside him, and Ponting walks in from silly point and picks up. Otherwise, we got a deep cover, mid-off, mid-on, and a deep backward square leg. And here is North again, and Collingwood goes back, flicks that away on the onside. It cannons off Katich at forward short leg, and Hughes completes the fielding at mid-wicket. The buzz of conversation, the gentleman sitting over there in a pink shirt, all at the far end of the ground, looking as though he's enjoying life enormously. Pink shirt like Victor Marx is wearing to my left. Here comes North, in again, bowls, and Collingwood up on his toes, plays it down in front of him. It's picked up by Katich at short leg, the end of the over. 94 for 5, 6 to Flintoff, who's been out of things really for a bit, and Collingwood has 32, and North didn't look exactly venomous in his first over.
No. He's got a couple Test wickets to his name. Remember, he's only played 3 tests, including this one. So that's one option. There's Katich, who's actually got 18 wickets in Test cricket at an average under 30. 29 to be precise. And Michael Clarke has got 18 wickets in his Test career, with a staggering best. It's not here, but what did we say it was?
6 for 9.
6 for 9 against India.
Against India, yes, on the subcontinent. And Hauritz is going to bowl the last over before lunch. He's in now to Flintoff. Flintoff goes back and forces through the offside. It goes to Hughes, who's halfway back to the boundary at cover, and Flintoff goes from 6 to 7, and the total to 95 for 5. And for Flintoff, we had one slight change in the field. Hussey at backward short leg went to a very short mid-wicket. He's now come back to backward short leg for Collingwood. Ponting goes up and has a word with Hauritz, so he may have seen something, and then walks in a very military manner back to take up his position at silly point. Rubs his hands together, scratches the back of his neck, has his hands on his knees now as he leans forward, and Hauritz is in, bowls. There, and Collingwood goes back, doesn't play it, that one goes through, out past the outside edge, didn't turn that one. Collingwood goes down the pitch and removes something. The pressure is there all the time, and it really does seem just a question of when the next mistake from these batsmen is going to come. And here comes Hauritz again, and Collingwood makes a little bit of room for a short run. It's going to get runs here. I don't think it'll go for 4. It's going down almost to the extra cover boundary, and chased by Siddle, who flicks the ball to Hughes. Hughes throws back, and they've taken 3 runs. So 35 now to Collingwood. It's 98 for 5. Hardly prosperity, but better than it was. And Hauritz now is going to bowl to Flintoff, and Hussey again has gone from backward short leg to short mid-wicket. And here comes Hauritz into Andrew Flintoff. He's there, he bowls. Flintoff's forward, rolling that back on the offside to Hauritz. Ponting gives his bowler a massive clap, and Collingwood comes down the pitch from the far end, does a bit of gardening. Flintoff walks back, settles over his bat. The close fielders go down, and here comes Hauritz again, and Flintoff covers up. Hussey at short mid-wicket walks forward a couple of paces, picks up, rubs the ball with his hands, polishes them briskly on his trousers, and then underarms it back to the bowler. Clarke swings his arms a little bit at slip. Flintoff walks around in a semicircle and now settles over his bat. And in comes Hauritz. He bowls. Flintoff goes back to a short one and cuts, and that's going to be runs. It's going to be 4 runs, I think, yes. He hit that one very well indeed. Even if it wasn't quite kicking horse, it was kicking pony, I think, that one. And it's the last ball before lunch. Hughes went back and collected it from deep cover. And so that has given a moment of light relief for England supporters. They are 102 for 5, the score at lunch. Flintoff goes to 11, and with that massive square cut, it was just a little bit underpitched. It was absolutely there for the stroke, and he hit it very well. And the faithful Collingwood at the other end is doing what Collingwood does best so often for England, as 35, taking no risks and doing everything he can just simply to stay there. Well, it's been very much Australia's morning again. England 20 for 2 at the start, 102 for 5. So 82 runs have come for the loss of 3 wickets.
Yeah, I mean, Australia will be thrilled to bits by that. In fact, England had quite a good last 40 minutes when Flintoff joined forces with Collingwood, and they showed what is possible against spin bowling on this pitch. They played cagily, but after a while they started to look reasonably comfortable. I'd be very, very surprised if after the break Ponting continues with a 2-spin attack. I think he'll get one of his quicker men back, perhaps Johnson. He's got plenty with lots of fuel in the tank, but that first hour or so clearly belonged to Australia. Pietersen not on his game, leaving a straight ball, bowled off stump. Strauss, who had looked pretty composed up until then, going for a cut shot. It looked a legitimate shot selection. It was a slightly short ball, but a bit quicker perhaps from Hauritz, a bit more bounce. He got the edge, and Haddin took the catch. And then Pryor, again, not a great dismissal, given the conditions out there. Not so much the situation, but the conditions. The ball is turning, not quickly, but it is turning. And you've got to be very, very watchful if you're going to start cutting the off-spinner that is turning into you. Hauritz actually got that one to bounce more than most deliveries. Took the glove, and a fairly simple catch went to Michael Clarke at first slip. So that's really put the cat among the pigeons, really put England under pressure. Really, it's up to these two, Collingwood and Flintoff, to guide England. Well, this pair have got to be together at tea, you feel, for England to get out of this hole. Flintoff, perhaps he's got a chance to say, hang on a minute, I could bat 6 for England, you know. But at the moment, Australia hold the cards. Just a little bit of respite for England in that last 40 minutes where progress, such as it was reasonably trouble-free. But so much more work for them to do. Aussies still scenting victory.